Welcome here to the family hour of the YAHOWAH blog. It's always a delight. This is my favorite of the shows. We have Kevin, and you're now down there in the Rainbow Studio, which used to be our spa of the house. Hasn't functioned that way in a very long time. Kind of hard to get all relaxed and romantic in a place that is filled with recording equipment and cameras. But it's nice to see that you're enjoying it, Kevin. Welcome to it. Captain Kirk, always a delight. It's good to see you. It looks like you're feeling pretty good under the circumstances.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good, huh? You're not going to complain anyway. Good to do, right?
I'm above ground, so I'm good.
That's always a plus. JB, you're again against the beautiful sunset over the mountain range. Even though you're physically in Texas, I think those mountains would be a long way away, wouldn't they?
Oh yeah, I would love.
Yeah, I like the yeah. You've got Shannon's shirt.
Yep.
Yeah. Looking. Oh, two for two. Yeah. Well, that's spectacular. Dr. Jeff, how are you this evening?
We are good.
Yeah. Looks like you're back at home.
We are.
Yeah. Good.
We're going to keep the phones quiet.
Well, we were having a little chat in the before the show began, and we were talking about what has been a most exceptional week of study.
Yeah.
And I think everybody knows that just about a year ago now, God said, you're spending so much time writing books and rewriting books that you've reached the point where you've got a lot more books than you need really to convey this message. It's, at this point, you've told what people need to know about me and about the Messiah Dowd and his fulfillment of Pesach Matzah and Kipurym, and the timeline and everything that is pertinent to the covenant and to the Moed. You pretty much covered it, and you can see these books around me. There's 35 of them. It's 25,000 pages, and God just said, that might be enough of the writing. I think we need to do something a little different, and let's follow through with the prophecy that I had issued, a couple of thousand years ago about it was time for you to start speaking to people. So, I don't really like to be a false prophet, so I'd appreciate it if you honor the prophecy and start speaking to the people. And so, we bought all these lights and cameras, and, here we are. We even got Rich over here running the show with all manner of monitors and computers and dials around him. And so, here we are, bloggers. Who would have thought? And in that transition, we essentially retooled, although Kirk, you've been with me a very, very long time. But Kevin, you were not fairly new in the knowledge. You've been part of this voyage of discovery for a decade or so. Yep. And so had Rich. But Kirk, you and Dr. Jeff and JB, we're talking 2 decades. But not quite as much, actively out front. Although JB and I did a show together for a number of years, and so did we, Kirk. Mm-hmm. But we did a major retool. God says, not with the old. I want a new team, and we teamed back up. And boy, have we ever taken off since that time! It's been extraordinary. And one of the things that has come up, and I bring it up from time to time, and I think we just lost JB, but maybe we'll get him back here before too long. But anyway, one of the things that we mention from time to time is that there's this insider cult that used to be part of the family, that claimed to be part of the family, that was really learned from us, communicated regularly with us, and they just went like not just rogue, they went like insane. Yeah, insane is probably the best term.
That's the word.
And their most recent post after all these protestations. No, we're not a mother goddess cult. You can't say that. That's so mean that we're a mother goddess cult. They posted that they were a mother goddess cult, and and they cited 3 passages to demonstrate why they were a mother goddess cult. And so, I said, okay, the last couple of times, fellas, that that like the last 10 times the mother goddesses, they've quoted something or they have insinuated something, we've just gone to Yahweh. He's kind of go-to on this sort of thing. That rather than coming up with our own response and saying, well, that's not true, we just go to what God had to say, and it's usually in the text that they have either cited or they reference. And God's just really good at this stuff. I mean, refuting. My advice would be never argue with him. I've tried 2 or 3 times to kind of arm wrestle him with some issue that comes up or just want to have fun. And I don't know if I've done it 10 times over the last 24 years, and I'm over 10.
No Yahweh gotchas, huh?
No, yeah, it's just really a dumb idea. But anyway, they've nonetheless sought to do so. So in this particular case, they picked lines from the creation account, and so I went there to see, does it really say what they claimed it said? And well, the first thing was that man and woman was created in God's image, that he created them in his image. Therefore, God's got to have maternal and paternal nature. But guess what? It doesn't say that. It doesn't even come close to saying that. He says that man was created in his image, and by the way, it's him, and even image is masculine, and the man is masculine, and it doesn't say anything about woman being created in God's image, like nada. So we started there and said, well, this is really fun. Let's just see where it leads. So I remember about a month ago, we did a whole show, 2 hours on a little different understanding, a better analysis of what took place in the garden. And I shared some insights with everyone regarding Towrah and Towrah's nature. That's for those who are not in the know. Towrah is the actual name of the person known as Eve. And the name does not mean life giver, as we are often told. Towrah means to state one's mind, to tell us what you really think. Is what Towrah means.
Right.
And she did. So I went there. I said, what the heck? I haven't dealt with that narrative in probably 15 years. Let's go back there and see what it really says. And I've now written, I'm fairly tight-lipped about these kinds of things. I always believe that if you can share an idea in 5 words, why waste 10? Or maybe something like that. Anyway, it's I was at 40 pages 2 days ago, and yesterday I was at 50, and now I'm at 75.
Yeah,
on this answer. Not quite finished yet. We're still working at it. But I stumbled across some things that we'll at least highlight before we get to the text for this evening's program. The first thing that I found is that there's been a lot of chatter here recently about how this role that I've been asked to play, which is based on, in one place anyway, probably the single most profoundly important prophecy that there is in the Torah and prophets. And it's profoundly important because it says that there will be a fellow named as the Choder, somebody that Dowd, as the Messiah and King, also addresses in his 14th Mashal proverb. But there will be a Choder, and this Choder, which is a stem, he's going to be unique among humans. He's the one person ever to have the 7 spirits of Yahweh. Mm-hmm. And he's going to be unique. It's a Netzir, which means he's a branch, an observant branch. A Choder means he's a stem. So I see a theme going here. It says that he's going to have Sheresh, which is roots. Mm-hmm. Boy, we're still on that same theme, aren't we? And it says that he's going to be Parah, which means he's going to be fruitful. Mm-hmm. Well, still on that theme. Okay. And do you know what the 4th spiritual attribute that the Choder is given?
Etza?
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 Yeah, Etza. Man knows his stuff. You've been listening. It's Etza. Etza is the feminine of what word?
Etz.
Etz. And what is Etz?
Tree.
tree. So we have roots, we have branches, we have stems, we have fruit, and we have tree. Huh. Those are 5 things that you might think might fit together, huh? And etzah is by adding the AH, it tells us a lot about the tree, and we'll get to that in a future program. But the tree is unique, and it's a tree that provides advice and counsel, and not just about anything, but about being able to frame the entire portrait and explain how everything fits together in the picture that God has painted. That's a fairly interesting thing, right? So it's a really, really talkative tree.
Right.
Okay. The 6th of the 7th Ruach that Yahweh offers this choder, do you know what its name is?
Yira?
No.
No, not Yira.
No, Yira is the 7th. Yira means to respect Yahweh.
Is it
What do you have to have before you can get there?
Knowledge.
Oh, Da'ath. Yeah, absolutely.
Da'ath,
Da'ath.
knowledge, Da'ath. Okay, so you got a tree of Da'ath, an etz of Da'ath that has roots, that has branches, that has stems, and that is fruitful. Are you aware of any other place where there is an etz Da'ath?
In the center of the Gan Eden.
Yeah, it's the star attraction of the garden. I don't know if you know it, but we're frozen here on our visual image. There we are. It's the center of the garden. And actually, when you tell the story of when Yahweh tells the story, what happened in the Gan Eden. Gan Eden means a protective and enclosed garden of great joy. When he tells the story, you know what he starts with? The dadgum tree.
Mm-hmm.
And then after he's told you all about the tree, you know where he ends the story? With the tree. You know, is the central figure of that whole story? It's the dadgum tree.
Right.
And they mention of a tree that's far more important than him. That's the tree of lives.
Mm-hmm.
But God says nothing about the tree of life. He's expecting the tree of knowledge to figure out and tell you who that tree of lives is and why the tree of lives is important, because he doesn't say anything about him. He just says the tree of life there. But then he goes on and on, man. He talks vociferously about the tree of knowledge and what it represents and why it would be premature and inappropriate to start chomping down on its fruit at this point.
Yeah.
But the tree of lives, that's it's the central character in the story. And dadgummit, isn't the choder nothing more, nothing less than the tree of lives?
Exactly.
I mean, the tree of knowledge is
Tree of
simply
knowledge.
the tree of knowledge.
Page 2.
And isn't the choder's purpose then, as the tree of knowledge, to explain and point out the tree of lives?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And is there any way to the tree of lives without that tree of knowledge?
No.
And who is the tree of lives?
Dowd.
Dowd is the tree of lives. Absolutely, because he fulfilled Passover, opened the doorway to life.
Matzah and B'kor.
And there's no way to find it, no way to get there, no way to understand it, no way to capitalize upon it, unless you can go back to the tree of lives, the tree of knowledge. It will take you there. Now, what's really interesting, of course, is that the functionality of the tree of knowledge wasn't for them, not then.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be for humankind until we were on the cusp of going back to the garden.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that's really interesting about that is that how many years did Moshe serve the children of Yisrael?
40.
40. How many years was Dowd king of Yisrael?
40.
40.
40. How many years since I started in 2001 will I have served as the tree of knowledge prior to our reentry into the garden?
I assume 40.
32. Well,
32.
40 by the time we get to 2033. Yes.
32 if you add
32 years. 32
Okay,
years.
then
33
that's-
minus 2001 is 32 years, right?
add
How many
some
days? How many days is the celebration of Sukah?
8.
8.
What's 32 plus 8?
Bingo.
40.
40.
Okay. So the purpose of that tree of knowledge is to serve the entrance into the garden, who are the beneficiaries of the Adam of Parah sacrifice on Towrah, so that on Sukah we begin by re-educating them. And that's going to be very intense over the first 8 years, although guess what? There's a reason that there's 8 people listed on Shabuwa and Towrah and also on Sukah. The gang of 8. We get to hand out that fruit from the tree of knowledge for all 1,000 years. We have an employment package now that goes out 8 years plus 1,000 years.
Wow.
And
that's better than tenure, isn't it?
That is really better than tenure. We've got a very, very long-term gig here. And now the reason we have it is the most interesting discovery I think I've ever made in my life. So let's back up a little bit. Who caused the fall of man?
Yeah.
Yah did. Yahweh. Yeah.
Did. And you came to know that when?
Since about
2 days ago,
8:30 this morning.
Yeah,
2 days ago.
About
yesterday,
24
right?
hours ago.
The answer to that
24
question would
hours
be
ago.
yesterday. Had anybody ever even suggested that the fall of man was the result of God?
Low.
They would
No.
never dare. to
No,
go
no
there.
one would ever say that. Everyone wants to blame Eve. They want to blame the apple. They want to blame the devil. They want to blame the man. Everybody's got a different take on it. But the Eve, who didn't even exist, it was Towrah. They want to blame her. They want to blame Adam, the man, for eating it. They want to blame Satan for beguiling them. But no one has ever said, nope, God's fault. God did it. Are you familiar with the verb nafal?
The fall.
Nafal. Yeah. Like you remember what were the people that Yahweh wiped
Nafal.
out during the flood?
The Nephilim.
Nephilim, the dealers.
Yeah, and what verb is that? It's the plural of a verb. It's the plural of nafal.
To fall.
Nafal is probably one of the 20 most reoccurring verbs in the Torah and prophets. You know what it means?
To fall, to drop, to
To fall.
Fall. To fall.
And so Yahweh in first person said that I caused the fall of man. The fall. I caused the fall of man.
Yeah.
So it is God that caused it. And then he set up everything from that point on for there to be a transition out of the garden, because the next thing that he discussed was the arrival of Towrah. And the moment Towrah arrives, we have the whole episode of Hasatan walking in and the whole misquoting God's testimony, and Towrah essentially saying, I want to be a goddess. And there we go. So from that point, it's straight to fall.
This was in plain sight for all this time.
It says that God caused the fall.
Because of a negative implement that caused us to go back to look at Adan. Look at what you have discovered. Look at this.
Beautiful. It's beautiful that an irritant is the one that caused us to go to this, because they made a false claim regarding it. So I said, God's really good at defending himself. We'll go there. We'll see what God actually said. And it is majestic. But God said that he caused the fall of man. Now, that's an interesting discovery. Of course, it changes everything in terms of our understanding of the first real story in the Torah. But the real question is, and this is the part that the text is just full of explanations waiting to be seen as to why God caused the fall of man. Didn't Yahweh tell us that the purpose of Adam was going to be to work the garden?
Yeah. Did he?
Now, okay, there's quite a narrative after that. Is there any evidence that Adam did anything that would be considered work, or that he improved or enhanced the garden in any way?
Not to my knowledge.
No.
Nothing.
Adam was
right?
on
The
disability.
reference to work seems to be after he got booted out. You're going to
nothing.
work for the rest of your life.
When Yahweh told the man, it's not good for the man to be alone, why would God say it's not good for the man to be alone if he was with the man?
He wasn't going to be there all the time.
He needed an alternative.
Because he wasn't spending much time around the man, and he wanted to spend a whole lot less around the man. Is the only reason he would say that it's not good for the man to be alone.
Right.
And what's the first thing God did after that? He says, okay, well, let's see if we can make this interesting. Let's show them other life forms. Let's bring in all the birds and the creepy crawlies and everything outside the garden. Let's just bring them in and see how the man does. See if he could contribute anything to this conversation.
Right.
And did you have a single word from the man? Like, ooh la la, that's really neat. I like the platypus. I think I could do better though. I mean, did you get anything?
He just gets to name them, but we don't hear the names.
Not a word.
They don't
Not a word.
tell us the names.
Not a word.
He was a lump on a log.
So gone. You're familiar with the term gone?
Gone.
Garden, yeah.
Gone.
Enclosure.
Gone means it's always translated garden, but that's not actually what the word means.
Closed.
It means enclosed. It means protected. It means sheltered. It means covered.
Gone.
So what was the garden? What was the gan? If it was enclosed, sheltered, walled, covered, what was it?
It's a cage.
It was a cage.
It was a cage. Absolutely.
Wow.
And so the man was put in the cage. Have you ever had a goldfish, fellas?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay. When you put the goldfish in the goldfish bowl, did you watch it swim around?
Sure.
Okay. And how long did you sit there and watch the goldfish swim around in the goldfish bowl before it got a little boring?
Doing nothing.
Right.
Oh.
You can only be relaxed by that for so long. Yes.
Yeah. Or if let's say that you decide you want to have an ant farm. I had one of those where you put all the ants and then they do the thing. You watch it for 15 minutes and you say, okay, well that was swell. Now what are you going to go do? Right?
Right.
All right. So could God let the man out of the cage?
Yeah.
Would the man
No.
would the man survive outside of the cage?
No, yes, it would not be
No.
kind.
Yeah,
no. he
And
couldn't,
what
yeah.
if the purpose was that this little cage, the bigger cage, let's just say the bigger cage is the earth. All right. Do you think that God is going to let mankind off the earth to go and travel through galaxies and around black holes and other life forms and in and out of heaven if he's not willing to listen and can't be trusted?
Hardly.
No.
Do you think God's
No.
going to spend an eternity looking at a fish in a goldfish bowl if man doesn't somehow figure out a way to be interesting?
No.
No. And
Okay.
is there a way to be interesting if you're coddled? If everything is given to you, can you develop a backbone? Can you be anything more than entitled?
You just beg.
Oh, you're a doctor, Jeff. Are you aware of studies of various types of animals that are where the control group is put in an environment where they're given, if anything, too much food? They're given absolute perfect conditions. It never changes above, the 70s, and they have no predators, and comfy quarters, beautiful music plays. And do you know what happens to animals in that kind of an environment?
They will eat themselves to death until they implode and explode.
They will. Yeah, the life expectancy of an animal that is given everything it needs and more is that they die. They don't survive.
Yeah. All
And
organisms
what
need a
happens if you
hermetic.
run the same? Yeah, what happens if you run the same experiment, but this time the animals in the experiment have to go through hot, cold, wet, dry. Food is a challenge, but it's available, and they have some predators, some animals also there that are trying to make life more difficult for them. If you really have to struggle and you have to be inventive and a little tough to survive, occasionally a cold shower, what happens with those animals?
The stress, they survive and
Yeah,
thrive,
and thrive.
actually.
And
They
thrive.
thrive.
Right. So was there any way for Adam to thrive in the garden?
No.
None. Was there any way for Adam in the garden to prove that he could be trusted?
No.
No, really. No.
No.
How was Adam in that cage ever going to be entertaining to God?
He wasn't.
Right.
He wasn't.
What a take.
So God caused the fall. Now, I think he decided this was going to happen this way because the story is really brief and it all points to the fall and how and how that would transpire. And the fall, by the way, was mutual. Adam wanted out too. Adam wanted out, and Towrah was his ticket, and they left. Once Towrah was introduced to Adam, there's not nothing really at that point. There's no conversation between him and God. And so the reason that God caused the fall of man is because what he really wants is to be able to liberate us from this planet. He wants to be able to explore galaxies together. He wants to be able to envision and communicate with various life forms together. He wants to allow us into his home in the seventh dimension. He wants to empower us, to enable us. And he's committed to making us family where he loves us and spends all eternity with us. And he says, I think for that, you need to grow up a little. I think you need to experience some tough times. I think you need to know what it's like to fall and to get up again. What it's like to work and to build something of value. What it's like to be hurt and still to thrive. What the importance is of learning, of listening, and when you're given good advice, following it. I mean, look at Noach. What a story. You know why Noach and his family were kept out of the flood and they rose above those Nephilim who fell during it?
You must be careful.
Willing to listen.
They listened.
And of course, they were called Nephilim, right? Because they fell and Noach and his family rose against them. And it says really simply, the reason that Noach and his family prevailed was that he listened and he did as God had asked. Did Adam?
No.
And so the only way for us to demonstrate that we are trustworthy is to actually listen to God and do as he asks and know what he has asked, and to show ourselves as committed to doing so, that we're willing to put in the time. That's the reason why YadaYahowah, which is the tree of knowledge, couldn't be a data dump. It had to be 24 years of, 100,000 hours worth of investment in time, where there were some mistakes along the way to show, I can recognize that I could have done better there, and a willingness to go back, make it right, and grow from there. It had to be that way. Otherwise, there's no evidence that you can be trusted. That's the whole point. So, and Noach, how many souls were saved?
8.
Yeah. And what about those animals that God was so excited to share with Adam? What happened to the animals?
They were on board.
Just
they were
2
on
of
board,
them.
right? So he took care of the animals, right? And there were 8 of them. And so, again, how many epochs do we have to have from the garden for God to achieve his goal?
Have to get down to Abraham.
We have to have 8, don't we?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, yeah.
We have to have 8. We have to have the 6 that have almost all expired. They'll be expired in 8 years from now.
Yeah.
And then we have to have year 6,000 to 7,000, the 7th epoch of man. What's the 7th epoch of man for? We're going to get to bring into the garden some people who have been recently cleansed of their limited religiosity and politics and that sort of thing. And we're going to bring them in as babies into the garden. And our job is going to be to what?
Teach him.
Educate them.
Teach
and to
educate.
show them the opportunity of how they can work and how they can contribute. And the whole test of the adulterous woman that the Adama Parah does, you know what the test is designed to demonstrate? That the woman can be trusted.
Mm-hmm.
We have 1,000 years to educate a group of people and to have them show that they're willing to work and make a contribution and that they can be trusted. Because guess what? At the end of that 1,000 years, what's going to happen?
We're
released from the cage that is the earth.
Yeah.
And we get to travel amongst the stars.
Wow.
We get to enter Shamayim with all of those people.
Eternity.
Now, there you go. That is the reason why there was 8 on the ark and they ended up with a rainbow. That is why there is 8 epics. That's why Sukah is scheduled for 8 days. That is what we have before us. And it's the whole goal is to equip people to the point that they're interesting, they're knowledgeable, and they can be trusted. So I had my good friend, I was talking with Yoel on this today, and he says, but where's the mention of a loving relationship? And I answered, I said, there is no mention of a loving relationship in the garden. There's none. You know why?
It wasn't.
They didn't know each
other. There wasn't. Well, there wasn't.
Yeah.
And that's it. They didn't know each other.
Yeah.
And, you can look at somebody and say, I've said of the gift of Yowza, I've said the gift of Leah several times, Yowza, that's really, I like that. That's good.
Right.
And Yowza, however, doesn't get it done. It's wonderful for romance and for
Propagating the species.
Propagating is good for that, and it feels really good. But it's not, you can't base genuine love on just Yowza. You have to have commonality, common interest. You have to be trustworthy. You have to prove that you're trustworthy. You have to be industrious and have contributed to the relationship. You have to be willing to learn and grow together, right? So until that happened, there couldn't be genuine love. So the whole exercise right now is to learn about Yahweh, to make a contribution to the covenant family, to show that we have common interests, that we can be trusted. And along the way, we fall in love with him. And guess what? He reciprocates. He loves those who do this very thing. So therein is the purpose of life, is to become interesting and trustworthy, knowledgeable, shared interest with God, which is why he rebooted the system and said, all right, I'm booting you out of the garden now. It's premature. You don't know enough. You're not interesting enough. You're not trustworthy enough. But guess what? I'm going to reestablish that tree of knowledge, and it's going to point to the tree of lives, and we're going to create a opportunity in 6,000 years for you to re-enter this garden, and we're going to have another go of it. And next time we're going to end up with the result we intended.
What's interesting, Craig, is that when you look at it in this light, is that the antithesis of Adam is his son Dowd.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is, yeah. Dowd is the antithesis of Adam. So it is it's just a marvelous story, and these are just this is just the top fruit.
Right.
There's lots of low-hanging fruit in this particular case that really is nourishing. And it's going to be, well, by the time I'm done, it'll be right around 100 pages, and it will be a series of very interesting shows. And as I began this show, I said, if we had a Christmas card list, we'd have to put D-Crud and DP on the Christmas card list, because if they hadn't been so stupid with their mother goddess cult and quoted
You might have missed it.
passages that prove that they're wrong, we wouldn't have gone to this and found it. And then we have to thank them too for proving that they really were stupid, because we now have the mother goddess. Oh, she is now a translator with the help, of course, with a AI chatbot, and she's
Good luck with
copyrighted. I mean, she's just copying my copyrighted style in terms of the amplified translation style, which means she's just trying to wear me as a skin, which is, by the way, what Towrah did in the garden. Towrah didn't just want to be a goddess. She wanted to control Yada. That and it's Yada that's mentioned several times, and Yada is the tree. She decided that she would ignore copying my style, she would ignore the research that we did, well, I guess it's now 20 years ago. You know, one of the most profoundly important discoveries pursuant to dispelling the accuracy of the Masoretic text is found in Mizmor 22, is it not?
Mm-hmm.
It certainly is.
And it is the having the correction where the Septuagint says that they have pierced my hands and feet. The Masoretic text, which was written in Babylon, says like a lion are my hands.
My lion hands, yeah.
Yeah, my lion hands.
Lion
That's my lion hands.
Lion hands.
And so the debate raged on what was right, the Septuagint or the Masoretic. And then that debate ended because in the Dead Sea Scrolls collection, there it was. They have pierced.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it really shouldn't have been a raging conflict because what does it say in Zechariah 12?
Oh,
Yahweh
the
was
cry for
returning-
this.
Yeah, Yahweh's
12:10.
returning. He's talking about, listen, the very spirit of acceptance is going to flow down upon the city of Dowd and the house of Dowd. And then God says, then you're going to witness me and accompanied by the one you have pierced, and you're going to weep as if he were a firstborn.
Right.
And so the Dowd already was associated with the one that has been pierced. So it should have been obvious that when he was describing crucifixion, that pierced was the right word, and the whole 22nd Mizmor is it. But what did she do in her prophecy?
Oh,
She
The
went to the
pierce does not,
Masoretic
does not appear in the Masoretic text.
right, and had the chat box actually say it's people that want to claim that this is messianic, but it absolutely does not appear in the Masoretic text.
Mm-hmm.
Just utterly stupid.
Yeah.
It's like turning back the clock, 20 years on knowledge. So anyway, we do all have to come up with a Christmas card list now, I guess, and send them a thank you.
Before we go,
Yes.
if I recall, that woman was not made from man's head, she'll never outthink him. Sorry.
No, she was not made from man's head. But what we're going to find, we will find out. And there's going to be some controversial things that I'm going to share with you when we go into that text. One of them is there is absolutely no indication that woman was made in the image of God. God says that man was made in his image.
Right.
There is no indication whatsoever that woman was created for the enjoyment of God or to be in a relationship with God. That's not to say that women can't engage in a relationship with God. We have members of the covenant family who absolutely are female and that they are engaged in a relationship with God. It's just that I'm telling you that when God described the creation of man and woman, he made it really clear that man was created to have a relationship with him, to receive instructions from him, to work with him. Woman was created in the image of man. And woman's role was to work with man.
Drum roll, please.
They are to work together as one and be more effective working together is the way that this relationship is supposed to work. But I'm telling you what the text says. You can get mad at me, you can get mad at God, but
Actually, ladies,
that's what the text says.
hold on to your pearls. It's about to get steamy.
Yeah, it is. It is. Well, we talked about what we some of what we found, but it's an amazing experience, and I wanted to share that going in because I'm really crappy at keeping secrets.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
These were three really big ones. I mean that the Towrah that everyone has, and the mother goddesses wanted to say based upon their
Deep
chat
research.
box, their chat box
Based upon their
rendering
delusions.
of analysis of the Towrah, that no, it can't be Yada. It is. It's thought to be a messianic figure, and Christians associated with Jesus was their answer. So they wanted to go after that prophecy.
Let them run.
And then to find out, sorry, it's not messianic. The entire prophecy is based upon the Towrah is a tree, and he is the tree of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the tree
I
of
don't
knowledge,
think-
by the way, that does with the seventh spirit. It's the tree of knowledge leads to a respect for Yahweh.
And yes,
It takes
yeah,
you right back to where we're supposed to be.
yeah.
So you ever wonder?
It's-
I was always wondering why in the world are all these things in that order? And then there's still the odd placement of Gibowr, which is the fifth of the seven. And then you realize, well, I'm going to tell you, you want to do this job? You want to be the daggone tree of
You
knowledge?
better be brave.
And you want to have all of
better
these.
be brave.
Oh
better
my
better bring
goodness.
your A game.
You better be damn tough, because it's quite the job. God has never been popular, and all of those who have spoken from him have been ruthlessly attacked.
Yeah.
Look at what's
We
happening.
are no exception.
Yeah. So anyway, that's
You know,
I thought it was a marvelous story. One of the most enjoyable things I've seen so far. You started in Genesis there, JB. What do you think about that so far?
Yeah, that's a whole different way of viewing it, but it makes sense. But I was going to say, the thing is, it's not just the tree of knowledge. It's the tree of knowledge of good and bad. And
Right.
roughly half of them books right there behind you are dedicated to pointing out what's bad.
That is correct.
It's
that
not
is
just pointing to the good stuff. It's going, there's a lot of it in there that's going,
Correct.
hey, this is the bad
Excellent,
stuff.
excellent.
Stay away from this. This is what's
Right.
good for you.
Yeah. And if you look at the Torah, more than half of the Torah is pointing out what's bad, isn't it?
Yes.
Because if people don't know, a child doesn't know what's bad, then
Russia
they're
and
likely
Pasha.
to go do stuff they shouldn't do, like be religious, like be political, like not
Like-
listen to Yahweh, like
Be
pray-
rebellious,
yeah, pray to him.
delusional,
Yeah. So
stupid.
yeah.
Good or
So
bad. I
those
actually think
things.
a more accurate term for it is this is what's useful and this is what's not useful. I think
Yeah,
that's
that's
kind
true.
of more how I view those words in Hebrew.
yeah.
Yeah, this is
Productive,
useful,
unproductive.
this is
How about that one?
not useful.
Yeah. Productive, unproductive. How about right and wrong?
Yep.
How about deadly and not
Yeah,
deadly?
it's Tob and Ra.
Yep.
Right
Yeah.
and wrong, good and bad. Oh, by the way, the interesting thing is that in that account, it is apparent that not only is the tree of knowledge YadaYahowah, which is, by the way, why it is that makes a big deal of having the nesh, which is that sign or banner, that written thing that he lifts up, which ties in with that. But in the midst of all this, God twice says that this is all about his, and he has Bashar written 4 or 5 times, and then which is the herald, and then he talks about his voice emerging from all of this. And so we went from the written tree to the spoken tree, haven't we? Offering the fruit
Mhm.
both ways. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
truly an amazing story, and it completely validates everything that God has ever said about the Towrah. That argument is over.
And
It
the
is-
whole talkative branch thing, that's making a whole lot of sense.
yeah. So the interpretation of the Towrah and what it represents, it's just done. He's the tree of the knowledge of good and bad, right and wrong, and that his purpose is to point back to the tree of lives, and that the tree of lives is Dowd, and that our whole purpose in life is to learn, to grow, to mature, to listen to Yahweh, to respond to him, to be engaged, show that we can be trusted to work,
Find a
to-
backbone.
to contribute, to share common interests, to fail and get up,
Build character.
build character. That's why
Morals,
Moshe
even.
fell, but he got back
God
up, didn't he?
forbid.
Dowd fell, he got back up, didn't he?
Yep.
So this idea that you can't speak for God if you make a mistake, no. In fact, it's just the opposite. You can't speak for God if you don't make mistakes.
You can't
Right.
learn if you don't fail.
You have to make mistakes, get up, dust yourself off, and grow from there.
In fact, Israel is the best example of failure. And yet
Yeah.
at the end, she will win.
Yeah, she will. She
The
will
only time you
prevail.
have to be perfect is when you're saying Yahweh said. Yahweh told me
Yes.
to tell you this. If you're saying
Well,
it,
then,
that way, it's gotta be perfect.
right, and if Yahweh is saying write down what I'm saying now, that you need to write that down accurately. Yes, and that has to be written down accurately, but it still can't be perfect. You know why it can't be perfect? Because when you that's exactly right. When you go from a spoken word, there is inflection, there's tone. there's hesitation, there's pauses, there's amplification. You
Mood.
can go really soft and say, well, this is something I want you to think. And I go really bold and say, now, do I have your attention? You can't do that in the written word.
No.
And that's the inflection, the intensity, the tone, the emotion. All of that is conveyed through the spoken word and making it really much more powerful. But the spoken word, until about 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, had no longevity. It had no verifiability. It was just like sound waves that dissipated into the ether. Now, the spoken word, you don't, if you say something online like we are, and these are all live streams, it's forever. So now the spoken word has reached its point where it is actually more powerful and equally enduring, maybe even more enduring than the written word. But so the very transition from spoken word to written word we have to toss off this idea of perfection. Yeah. And perfection really is a bad idea anyway. One of the things I learned, and I know that God's much smarter than I am because we've had several arguments and I've lost them all. So I'm going to go with the fact he's smarter than me. One of the things I learned in business is if you try to make something perfect, it will always be of bad value. It takes too long to perfect it. By the time you perfected it, the opportunity is gone and it's way too expensive. What you want to do is create something that's exceptional, that's really good, that's better than other people have done it, and offer it in a timely fashion at a great value. And you can do that with really good or better. I like to say with something that's better, you can do that. With something that's perfect, you're done. It can't be done. And so I don't think God was ever shooting for perfection, but even with that transition from the spoken word to the written word, perfection is gone. Yeah. Now,
if he wanted perfection, why would we need to be perfected?
Yeah.
Logic rules.
Right, yeah. Okay. People. Now there's another thing too, which is that even with the written word, it can't be passed on perfectly. First of all, scribes make errors. Like I think that the scribes that were in Yisra'el, not the Masoretes, but the scribes of the Essenes and before them, when they copied scrolls, and we have some now that date back, to 350 BCE, which means that the scrolls they were copying were probably 550 BCE. So go back a long time. And we find occasional errors between them. Mm-hmm. The errors are really minor. I've seen very little that would be material, but people aren't perfect when even copying from one to another. So there's going to be an occasional scribal error that's going to seep in. But it's meaningless because, well, God tells us what he's going to tell us. He tells us, and then he tells us what he told us, and he does that like 10 times over. Mm-hmm. Yep. The story is really consistent, and it's and so you're getting it from so many different perspectives and so many different circumstances that
it's the same thing in stereo sound. Mm-hmm. Did you hear it, kids? Boom, 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 boom. Yeah.
So anyway, that's the redundancy takes care of that, and then you have the other issue is that languages migrate. For example, spoken Hebrew today actually has very, very little in common with the language of the Torah. They want to say, oh, it's the same. No, it isn't. You've changed the sounds of the letters. You've replaced letters. Like you don't see anybody write the Shalom or Torah with the Wah in it, do you?
No.
But they'll give the credit for it, the Wah being the O sound, but yet elsewhere they'll pretend it's a B sound. You don't find in modern Hebrew a B sound; it's replaced with a B, and on it goes. So the transliterations that I use that are based upon the original letters and what the sounds they conveyed, you don't see that in modern Hebrew, and you've got a language now that about 20% of the words are roughly migrated from the words of the Torah and prophets, about 20. And then you have about 40% of them that are from the Talmud. from the rabbis that, have done nothing but corrupt God's message, and particularly with their Masoretic vowel pointing. And then you have the rest is actually adaptations of English, because so many of the modern things are in English, and so many of the Jews came from America, where English is the lingua franca of the world too, that, things like television and telephone and those kinds of things, modern contrivances are communicated in English. So the language bears very little resemblance today to the original language, and it's one of the oldest languages, and it's a language that was revived, but languages evolve. Meanings of words evolve. And so, they would
more
say
like devolve. They
devolve
don't
in some
evolve,
cases.
they devolve.
Yeah. And in modern Hebrew, I don't hear anybody conveying what was the thing that was the most helpful in deducing these conclusions from the text as I was analyzing it over these last few days. And that is that we always speak of two conjugations in Hebrew, the perfect and the imperfect. And the difference is that one, but clumsy Ham's going around it. But anyway, one is finite in time, the other one's ongoing in time. That neither one address past, present, or future. There is no past, present, or future in Hebrew, particularly in the Torah and Prophet Hebrew. All things are true throughout time. It's just like light. Time simply exists in a photon of light. The language that Yahweh used is liberated in time. Every verb is true past, present, and future. It's just either for a finite time or for an ongoing period of time. And that's really helpful. If somebody says something in the perfect, they said it once and you're done with it. If they said it in the imperfect, then it has an ongoing consequence. Our behaviors did. Don't continually eat of that tree. That would be in the imperfect. If it's don't ever eat of that tree, it would be in the perfect. And so the instruction was in the imperfect. And when Adam had his confession, he said, yeah, okay, I continually ate. In fact, he wasn't hiding among the trees. According to the actual text, he was in the tree. He was in the tree. He was just gobbling down all that he could get. So, but there's two other conjugations, and one of them is the infinitive, and then there's the participle. And what we find is that they are just like the perfect and imperfect, and the one's confined in time and one is unlimited in time. But what they do is they make the verb into a noun. So it is an actionable noun. So that, for example, if you were to write in the infinitive or the participle, yada, and you are therefore under those circumstances, you would correctly convey the meaning by saying knowing yada. It is both actionable and it is a noun. Yada is a noun as a name, as a title. And
it's a pun.
And the process, and the process of it would be being familiar with or knowing or recognizing. And so in those two forms, if it's written that way, it is the most accurate to translate it as knowing yada. So that is really an insightful thing. And then there is throughout the text, for example, there's two places where the Hitpael stem is used. Now that's an unusual stem. My guess is that even you guys that have done lots of translation, written a glossary, aren't going to know off the hand what the Hitpael stem is. You want to prove me wrong, or am I going to be correct in this?
Intensive and collective.
That's why the cheats. Yeah.
The Hitpael stem means that you are acting on your own initiative, that no one is influencing you.
He just
and when we're moving,
you all off on your own.
Right. When we have Adam and Yahweh deciding it's time to separate, we have two back-to-back verbs written in the Hitpael stem, which means they've both made a decision they were going to act independently of one another. And so there you see it.
I think many Jews have that experience.
Yeah.
I personally did.
Yeah.
I was like, you go your way, I'm going to go mine, we're good.
Yeah, but you don't see that. There's no English equivalent of it, and there's no modern Hebrew equivalent of it, this Hitpael stem. But if you don't convey it, you're missing what was communicated. So it's an interesting process. you're certainly not going to get in a AI chat box to work with you through that one.
Hardly.
And then you have one of the biggest challenges of all, a language that expresses volition in first, second, and third person. It's how we came to understand that Dowd chose to be the Passover lamb. And then after choosing it, he convinced YAHOWAH, and they became of like mind with YAHOWAH agreeing that it was the right call for him to make.
Guess who else chose to be the Bashar?
Yeah.
You did.
Yeah.
All in one word.
All in one word.
All of that in one word.
Right. So you can write something like even the verb chose, but you can write something and write it in the cohortative and then add second person volition through the imperative. And if it's written in second person, you have to add pronouns because yes, you chose, but you chose what I wanted is what the cohortative imperative written in the second person. You chose what I wanted. I wanted this and you agreed with me. And so you have to add pronouns to communicate it. But if you don't add those pronouns to communicate, then you're not communicating the mood. And the mood is essential to conveying who's trying to achieve what and why.
Yeah.
So it just makes this whole process of translating and trying to understand. And, and somebody might say, well, I don't need the translation. I read Hebrew. Well, goody, two shoes for you.
Keep reading.
You've got some problems there. One is that because of the diacritical markings, which were designed to make the text read as the rabbis wanted it to, and therefore to support the rabbinical agenda and religion, if you can't scrub them of those and you read just the Hebrew and you're not aware that they're there, then you're going to be misled. You're going to have no idea the corrections that were made in the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Dead Sea Scrolls vary from the Masoretic text by about 15%. You're not going to know any of that. You're not going to have any understanding of the volitional moods because they're not conveyed in it. Mm-hmm. You're not going to understand what the Hitpael stem says, for example, or why the niffle is different than the peel. And so
these people wanting to use Chat GPT and AI to translate, I just want to say one thing. Programming languages are a million times more simple than the Hebrew language. And I've seen how Chat GPT butchers programming languages. So I'm not going to try.
That's terrible.
Claude.
It's terrible.
I hate
I've read their efforts, and their efforts are pathetic. It's just really bad. Now, I have a bias. And that my bias is based upon what I've come to know. There are subjects that I know as well as anybody that's ever lived. And there are subjects I don't know anything about. So if I'm curious about a subject that I know nothing about, I can put in a query now. And if you put in a query in a browser, it's going to come up with, the first thing it's going to come up with is with the AI's answer. And I know enough to read the AI answer and say, all right, that's what it came up with. But you'd better go and verify it yourself because it is as likely to be wrong as it is to be right. Mm-hmm. And then on subjects that I know a lot about, I know a lot about Islam. I think I know more about Islam than anybody alive by a long shot, having written these 5 volumes. I know Allah, the Quran, the Hadith, and Muhammad, I think better than anybody has ever known them.
I think you've spent a lot of time with those guys.
Yeah.
You should know them.
And I know I understand what's wrong with Christianity and the New Testament better than anybody who has ever lived. And so if I were to question the AI bots anywhere, whether it be Grok or Chat GPT, any one of them,
they'd lose.
They're always wrong. And if you point out to them why they're wrong and where to look for the right answer, they can't learn.
Even if we plug in your books to the AI.
Yes.
Yep.
And ask it a question, it gets it wrong.
Yeah. And really? So, what I found that was the most troubling of all is when I was doing these shows and we had the Charlie Kirk assassination and Tyler Robinson emerged as the suspect. And first of all, I don't think that Tyler Robinson actually did the deed. I don't think it's possible that a 30-06 was used to create that wound and the bullet stay where it was. But it was interesting to me that he came out of a Mormon conservative pro-MAGA Mormon family, and that the governor and the FBI all said that he was living with mom and dad at the time. Mormon pro-Magus. And then the conservatives said, no, I couldn't be conservative, couldn't be MAGA.
He's a lefty.
And they said, no, he's a lefty because he was living with a transgender man. and so I asked, I said, what's the truth? I mean, it's the FBI says one thing, and now we're hearing another. And consistently, the AI engines got it wrong. And so if you relied on what they said, you were wrong 100% of the time. They never did get it right. And you know, the answer was both. And he wasn't there because this guy was transgender. He was there because he was a gamer. His whole life was absorbed in games. He was an incel. You know what an incel is, don't you?
Incel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
incel.
they're boys who live in their mother's basement, play video games all day, order pizzas, drink Red Bull, pee in a cup, and hate girls.
Boy, you know them better than I would have thought, but okay.
Involuntarily celibate.
Yeah, involuntarily celibate.
You don't think we had these guys back in our day? Of course we did.
Okay.
We just called them nerds.
And he was a groper. A groper. You know what a groper is?
Ew.
No, not that kind of groping. No, he's a groper. It's a frog that is associated with Nick Fuentes, who is a Jew. He's this disgusting anti-Semite, and it's with him, and they are a group that went after Charlie Kirk because they didn't like some of the stances that he took on issues.
Enough.
So, but he went to Halloween parties as a groper. He was in the groper games, and then you read the bullet casings, and the bullet casings were all from games that were played by those who were associated with Nick Fuentes and his anti-Semitism and all that.
So
sort of
he's
thing.
a fanboy.
So he was a fanboy embroiled in a world of games, and that's what corrupted him. Because
mentally ill fanboy.
Right. He couldn't distinguish between reality and the games, and so he went into that apartment because there were 5 other gamers in that apartment. So he, could
gross.
Real life and the gaming life all merged. And so I remember how horrible the AIs were when trying to discern what's true. And they're just
they don't know how.
Yeah, anybody that relies on them, you're just absolutely fooling yourself. They're horrible. And one of the worst things about AI now is that they're blurring the line between real and fake. I like nature pictures. And so, because I spend the time on Facebook and on X, you'll see a bunch of pictures, and you don't want to even pass them on or comment on them because you don't know which ones are real or fake anymore. You see something that's cute with dogs or cats or something, and you say, well, that's, you'll see a cat that defends a child against a bear. And
I love those videos.
Yeah, I love it, but
you can tell they're fake.
But they're fake. They're all fake.
But you can tell.
No, you're reading somebody that says, well, the Ukrainians really took it to the Russians today. They blew up this, and it's fake. And so that's AI is a tool that is allowing those who are deceitful to create the impression of things that are just absolutely not true. And that's used all the time to create illustrations and videos that are just completely and totally false.
On the flip side, it's pretty great for creating music videos.
Yeah, Suno, I think, is pretty darn good for that. And one of the challenges too is that I'm old enough to remember that I made it through college with a slide rule. Mm-hmm. I had to do math in my head. And when it became too difficult because of calculus, that you had to use a slide rule, I learned the relationship between numbers. That slide rule helps you have an appreciation of how things relate to one another and of magnitudes. And so I remember taking all of my tests all the way through college on a slide rule. It wasn't until my last year that Texas Instrument, they came out with their engineering science-related calculator. Yeah. And it was to do, science kinds of things. It wasn't to do, 2 times 7 is what?
Swoon. It was the hallmark of a nerd. You knew you had a nerd if he had one of those calculators.
Oh, absolutely. You know, they're
The
kind of the wedge
TI-1.
shape. Yeah, TI-1, the web shape. They're
exactly.
kind of wood grain and dark brown. Yeah, they're I had them, but I also had my whole collection of slide rules. and I really liked my slide rules. I'm disappointed. It's kind of an analog world. If you were into math and not art, Kirk, you probably would like your slide rule too. I know your pencil is your analog tool. But what the difference is that my generation, we understood the relationships between things. We could do probabilities in our
And
heads.
statistics.
We could look at something and know the relationship and proportions of something. If somebody said, how much wood do I know? I could do the math in my head. What's the square foot of that? What's the circumference of it? I could do that in my head. I knew it. I could think through these things. Once the calculator came, no one did multiplication or division tables, and they lost the ability
That was my generation.
to do things in their head.
Yeah.
They can't do algebra. They can't do geometry. They don't know these things. And now with the smartphones in your pocket,
none of them can.
nobody thinks.
They
And
can't
then-
even give you change.
Oh yeah, they can't. Oh, they can't.
At the
give you change.
register,
Yeah,
they can't
the
even give you change.
The register has to tell you how much change
it's
to
bad.
give
It's really
because
bad.
they can't figure it out. And then you add to that now AI, which is so inept, does not think, has no judgment, and people are relying on it in addition to their calculators. We're in the last part of the last generation that's capable of thinking.
Are
If
you
it
worried
was-
about them corrupting the youth? They're done. They're cooked.
If it wasn't for the fact that Yahweh reestablished the tree of knowledge now, it would have had no value. And it has very little value with the youngest generation.
Little,
So
if any.
What I do is my proofs of the Pythagorean theorem that we had to do in high school.
Yeah. And what we're finding even now is that, the school back in the day wanted to give every credit possible to the Greeks. They invented democracy and everything. And, they actually invented oligarchies. And the only long-serving living oligarchy was the Spartans, and they were the biggest bastards in the of all time. The way they treated people, and the Greek version of it was only for the city-state of Athens and didn't go beyond the city-state of Athens. So it wasn't much of a success, but they want to give everything. And then the great scholars, Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, and all of them were really lost in space. They had their Gnosticism that they were promoting and their gods, and they were wrong more than they were right. Now you mentioned Pythagoras. The fact is that now that we have access to more of the clay tablets out of Babylon and out of ancient Sumer,
They didn't know crap.
no, they didn't invent anything. It was known 500 years before there was a Greek. So
Can
we
I
now have
quote
tablets
Plato?
that say that all of these things were learned long before the Greeks came along.
So, as one of the Greek philosophers, great philosophers, once said, the Greeks never invented a thing, but took everything in and made it their own.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the Romans just devoured the Greeks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's why when Yahweh says that through Dowd, of course, that the migration of the beasts that would be so destructive to humankind goes from Babylon to Persia to Greece to Rome
Assyria.
to the Roman Catholic Church.
You forgot Assyria.
So no, that's the Yahweh doesn't mention actually Assyria. It's Media Persia, but Media didn't have much of an influence over Persia. That was a very brief sort of thing.
Interlude, yeah.
Yeah. So, that's been the progression, and it all began in Babylon. I mean, the Christian religion is Babylonian. The Quran was first committed to writing in Babylon. The
Talmud
that the Jews worship as if it were the anchor of their religion is the Babylonian Talmud. We haven't gotten very far from it. It's, almost every aspect of Christianity is Babylonian.
Kabbalah is based on Babylonian magic.
Yeah, Kabbalah is just so weird that Jews would still believe in Kabbalah because you know when the Zohar was written,
15th century.
12th century.
Oh,
Well,
12th,
yeah.
sorry.
you know,
I was
you know
way
where
off.
where it was written?
Babylon.
Spain.
Spain.
Spain, yeah, under
yeah.
Muslim control.
Yeah, and you know Judaism wants to claim it's the oldest of the monotheistic religions, and in
Full of
Israel
shit.
today, the only religion that has a vote are the Haredim. You know the Haredim religion, where it was conceived and when?
Ukraine.
1800s in the Ukraine, yeah.
The Ukrainian.
Right. 17th century in the Ukraine is when the Haredi religion was conceived. But then you look at when was Jesus first named? People think,
Yeah,
you know, Jesus
16th
must go all the way
century,
back.
yeah.
Got to be an eyewitness. Jesus was a real guy, man. Jesus has an empty tomb.
No,
When was
that's
the
right.
when was the name
52.
Jesus first stated?
Was it
King
52?
Hines.
200
King
years
Hines.
ago.
52 CE?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Jesus in
Seven-
Iams, yeah.
17th century. Yeah, 17th century.
17th century.
And the third edition, which when the King Iams Bible became the King James Bible, was the third edition. And the early 17th century is the first time that the name Jesus was even stated. And prior to that time, it was Ayusu. Ayusu, Ayusus, Ayusun. Is that a Hebrew name?
No.
No.
No, that's
So
Greek.
was there a Ayusu, Ayusus, Ayusun and first century
Not a,
Yahudah?
Jerusalem? No.
Not
No.
a chance.
How many times did Yahweh speak of speak Greek
Never.
and mention a Greek person is going to be significant?
Who said?
Zero. Yeah, none.
So, Craig, would you say that artificial intelligence can also be referred to as artificial idiocy and artificial ignorance?
Yeah, I'm not sure that the ignorance and the idiocy is artificial, but yeah.
That's real.
I think the idiocy is real. The intelligence is not.
Nope.
You know,
Hence the word artificial.
we were given, and this is part of that story again about the story in the garden. We were given two amazing tools, both of which we get to take with us. One of which is just totally underutilized today, and those tools are a nefesh. A nefesh is consciousness or a soul. All animals have a nefesh. It's what differentiates animals from plants
Plant-like.
is a nefesh. So what the nefesh enables you to do is your consciousness. It enables you to observe through your five senses what's happening around you. So your five senses enable you to observe what's happening around you. And this nefesh consciousness then enables you to respond to it, to grab something, to move away from it, to look the other way, to stare, to try to understand it. Those kind of try to control it, to, try to kill it, or to try to, cuddle up to it. You have a nefesh consciousness that is able to observe and respond to the environment. That's what differentiates animals from plants, and all animals have one. But then humans were given something special. And this is something that very few people process or even understand, and that is a nasama. And the nasama is your conscience. So not consciousness, but a conscience. And a conscience is that ability to capitalize on the tree of knowledge of good and bad.
Good.
With your conscience, you can discern what is good, what is bad, what is right, what is wrong. You can think your way back to God. And so we're given both of those things. And today, I think there's a reason that there's a lot of gray hair in this group. My wife excluded, of course, but there's a lot of gray hair here.
No, there's plenty gray under there.
Okay. But we genuinely have to think our way to God, and you have to be willing to think your way to God. We were talking about the Nasama, JB, and that how it's integral to the whole process of the tree of the knowledge of good and bad, because that Nasama, as your conscience, is the seat of judgment, of discernment, of being able to differentiate between right and wrong, productive, counterproductive.
And there are so many that cannot, will not, do not know how to discern rightly.
Well, I'll give you a great example. You have young people today and liberal people today that are out promoting Palestine. Yeah, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. And first of all, I don't think they would have any idea where is Palestine.
They couldn't point to it on a map if there was a prize.
Why is there a place called Palestine? Mm-hmm. And why isn't it free? And who would live there if it were free? And they have no idea of the answer to that question, but they're not thoughtful. And if you were thoughtful, you would know that Palestine is based upon Hadrian in 133, after he ruthlessly suppressed the revolt led by Rabbi Akiba and Bar Kokhba, his false messiah. He was, as typical Roman, was so vicious while burning those who could read Hebrew alive in scrolls that were written, which have been the Torah and prophets, dipped in kerosene and then burning the people alive. He would constantly torment them and said, "Who is the greatest enemy of the Jews?" And one of them said, "The Philistines." And he said, "Well, that's what I'm going to rename this place. It's no longer the province of Yehudah, it's now Philistia." And so the whole lie of Palestine is a corruption of Philistia that was an ethnic slur designed to be genocidal.
And what does the word Palestine mean in Hebrew?
It's an invader. It's a terrorist invader.
Oh, well, there you go.
Terrorist invader.
That says exactly who they are.
Yeah, finally, they were able to do the DNA study, and the Torah says that the Philistines came from Crete. So they finally did, they found some graves, and they did the DNA testing, and guess where they found was the heritage of the Philistines.
I know, I got you that DNA report.
Yep.
That would be Crete.
They came from Crete. So, they were terrorist invaders. And they were wiped out. The Egyptians attacked them, the Babylonians, the Assyrians, and finally the last of, and of course, Dowd, David. He started with the tallest of them, Goliath, called him you unclean, uncircumcised, foul-mouthed Philistine, and clunked him with the stone. And then after Shaul and his sons and the leadership of Israel were beaten badly by the Philistines, Dowd took charge and said, "All right, well, we'll take care of this." And he essentially wiped them out. And what wasn't wiped out about them, the Egyptians, the Babylonians, the Assyrians, and finally Alexander destroyed, so that they weren't even enslaved because they were too savage to be enslaved. They weren't good slaves because they were just too ruthless, and they couldn't read or write, and so they didn't really have many redeeming qualities, and so the Philistines were annihilated. So to say that you want a Palestinian people to have Palestine means that, well, you're really stupid.
In Mexico, they call them banditos.
Yeah,
they're bad people.
And then for a liberal, a Marxist, to partner with Muslims, which they're doing, is it says, "I am so ignorant that I'm a danger to myself and the world." Right. In Islam, women have no rights. There's no freedom in Islam. It's a primitive religion that takes you back to the 7th century.
Okay, well, isn't communism the same, or socialism the same way?
Well,
women are treated like trash.
No, it's not. No, there are women that prevail in Marxist systems, but never in a Muslim system. Yes, the Marxists are ruthless. They have that in common. Marxists have killed 200 million people in the last 100 years, and Muslims have killed 350 million people. They're both very ruthless, but that's typically not a reason to bond together and parrot one's agenda.
No, they bond together over the hatred of Jewish people.
Yeah. But then, you look at the new mayor of New York City. Wow. He's a stated communist. And you realize that to advocate Marxism or communism or socialism, again, you have to be completely ignorant. I mean, you have no understanding of East and West Berlin, of East and West Germany, of the Eastern Eastern communist countries before the Iron Curtain was torn down. And I went to all of them during 50 years ago, And I've seen this firsthand. I was actually in communist China 50 years ago. So I know how depressing. You have no rights. There's no prosperity. There's no freedom. And yet
poverty.
The Marxist youth are touting Marxism as the answer. It's the answer to nothing. It's deprivation of economic progress, of poverty, of deprivation of rights, of free speech, of everything. It's always bad because you're concentrating power in people that have no clue as to what they're doing, and you remove all incentive. So we're dealing with people that have literally are out of their minds.
They are immoral mental cretins.
They are. So, and
I think Yahweh calls them evil.
Yeah, they are. It's we're at the very end of the opportunity to reason with people, and you look today, you've got the worst man maybe in the history of men is the President of the United States, and he has 37% of Christian MAGAs thinking he is the greatest thing ever.
Ew.
And yet he's a sexual pervert. He's a committed liar.
Psychopath.
He's an absolute psychopath. He's an egomaniac. And everything he does is counterproductive. And yet you have 37% of people who are so bewildered by religion and politics, they still support him. In
2017, Jeffrey Epstein said, he's evil. He's evil.
Right. Yeah, Epstein. Epstein, who was his closest friend, said, I know a lot of bad people, but the most evil man I've ever known is Donald Trump.
Wow.
And you can be MAGA and you still support him under that. That's why we talk about this, because
you need to know
there's only one way off this planet alive, and that is to come to know, cherish, develop an understanding of who Yahweh is, what he's offering and asking in return. It all takes place up here. And if you can't think your way to it, you can't take the time to read. We talk about social media. That's why we're doing the blog on the blog now, is that no one will read past 10 words.
Mm-hmm.
So how in the world is anybody going to figure out who Yahweh is, even if we give them the answer on a silver platter?
Yah is a fan of gray matter.
Yeah.
Yahweh's a sapiosexual like I am.
Well, I don't know if he's sapiosexual.
He likes smart people.
He's certainly...
he likes smart people.
He's certainly sapio.
Yeah.
Yeah, God is...
Yahweh is the font of intelligence.
Yeah.
And, like he said, having people in the garden that are clueless, apathetic, not responding, how would you like to have that as your company? Ew. No, Go out there and get a backbone, get some morals, grow up hair.
Yeah, the humor of brilliance is, what do they call it? Somebody that is funny and brilliant. What is the form of humor that they're likely? Sarcasm, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
who is the one person that Yahweh says, that guy I really like? I want to have him hang with me, and I'm going to bring him back when it matters.
Yeah. He called him a prick. He called him a prick.
He does. Yeah, because one of the things that's interesting, you're studying again back into the garden, and it talks about there was this river that supplied and watered the garden, and it's talking about that for a particular reason, which is that this tree of knowledge is the Adamah Parah, and it talks about how the Adamah is essential to this story, and it's going to be flooded. There's going to be from the earth, from the Adamah, there's going to be this upwelling of water, and it's going to cleanse the adulterous woman, the mortal remnant of Israel. But in that process, it says, so there is a river that waters Eden. Then it says the river breaks into, and it does not say 4 rivers. The river is divided into and has 4 iterations of Rosh, leaders. And then it names those 4 leaders. And each of the 4 leaders, they happen to be Moshe, the Pishon, which means that he is surrounded by those who are irascible and irritable. And so it speaks of what the poor guy endured during the Exodus.
Yeah.
Moshe. And then the next is Dowd, and it's Gishon, which means to burst forth. And it's even named after the Gishon spring, which is this natural spring that came up in the middle of the city of Dowd. Dowd is the one that breaks forth in 3 lives.
Wow.
And he comes back, breaks forth, finally as the King of Kings. He's the Gishon. And then it has Elia. And the term that he has for Elia is sarcastic prick. And, and we laugh in English because, prick is a pejorative, but it isn't in Hebrew. No. What it means is he's that sharp needle, the thorn that you can really use to get at somebody, the thorn in that sense. And so with Elia, Yahweh calls him a sarcastic prick. That's his, and that's a compliment.
Right.
And then that last fellow is the Parah, and you may have heard Parah before. Parah means that it's the productive bull.
Fruitful and productive.
Yep, fruitful and productive bull. He is Yada. He is the 4th one of the leaders that comes out of the guard star. God doesn't miss a trick. He really is smart. You just have to be on your game to keep up with him. And yeah. And I would say that since we're talking about Elia being a sarcastic prick, every time I have a conversation with Yahweh, he's sarcastic. Always. It's just his style. He likes sarcasm, and I think it's kind of the way that you level the playing field a little bit. There's such a chasm between us in terms of our intelligence. A little sarcasm. If you're smart enough to even be in his company, you're going to get it, and you're going to say, "Okay, that was a good one. Yeah. I like that. That was pretty clever." I will never forget me asking what's going to happen with Asher during the Towrah harvest, and he says, "So where do you think you're going to go?
Where are you going?" Right?
Yeah, where do you think you're going to go? Took me a while before I understood that. Oh well, that is the $1 million answer, isn't it? Where do I think I'm going to go? I'm not going anywhere. Is the answer? You're staying right there in Jerusalem, pal. You're the show. Okay. Or when I said I don't want to go back and edit Prophet of Doom, that was years in hell. Muhammad is revolting and Allah's disgusting and the Quran is like waiting in hell. No, I don't want to go back do that. I know that Prophet of Doom is old, tired, needs to be rewritten, but we got other things to do, right, God? And he said, well, kid, I've taken care of you. Now you take care of my people.
So what's the score?
Okay, I've been schooled. I've been had. Remind me not to challenge God again. Yep. Yeah, I remember about a month ago when the Mother Goddess cult was becoming particularly vicious. They had launched a couple of websites, Facebook site and a website, where they hashtag my name all the time and then they trash it. And it's actually an illegal use of the online environment, but they hashtag my name and then they trash me and they trash YadaYahowah. And they trash my wife Leah in the process, and so I just finally got said, okay, God, when they start trashing my wife, it's a violation of our agreement. You need to protect my home and family, and they're being vicious towards her. It needs to stop. And now what's interesting is the viciousness towards my wife did stop. But God's answer into why I can't bring the other down is, hey kid, I've written like 50 prophecies about this. It's in Numbers 11, Numbers 12. It's in the whole creation account. If you go back into the creation account, you're going to find that that's the story. So I've got all these stories that I've just got dialed up for you. And if you don't, pay attention, if they don't irritate you so that you go and read what I wrote about them, then all this good prophecy stuff goes for naught. So
all right.
Have fun.
A lot of good material I don't want to waste. So,
yeah, great material. I don't want to waste this material. And
right.
You're going to find it's entertaining. You're going to learn a lot if you go through it. So it's just going to draw you to some really, really good stuff. Oh, by the way, one of the things we've never been able to really properly ascertain why there were two trees on either side of the menorah? So one tree on the spring menorah, one tree on the fall menorah. You know what those two trees are? The tree of lives and the tree of knowledge.
Yeah.
It's the tree of lives is on the spring side, and the tree of knowledge is on the fall side.
Oh, you mean it's not mommy and daddy?
No. And on both sides of that thing that's over my shoulder there, a menorah between them, so that you understand that you got one that is on one side of the menorah, one that's on the other side of the menorah. You got one that's fulfilling the spring Moed Miqra, and the other one's fulfilling the fall Moed Miqra.
I'm being facetious, obviously.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's marvelous. All right, well, we have a little more time left in our family hour. Why don't we begin one of the great stories ever told? And it begins. Once again, Dowd gathered all of the chosen, the desirable, and the tested of Yisra'el, some 30,000. This is from Shamuel. Listen to him, 2 Samuel 6:1. So at that point, would there have been maybe a few million Israelites?
Easily, yeah. This is the
easily
height.
a few million Israelites. Yeah. And Dowd gathered all of those who were chosen, desirable, and tested. And there were some 30,000.
Oh.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Who would have,
Well,
but it's a far cry from millions, but still it's pretty impressive. So at this point, amongst the millions of Israelites, so this was a cross section of them. We don't know if the Bashar, which is the term that was used, Bakar, is revealing that those are Dowd's choice, the people that he liked the most, or the people that he had tested somehow, maybe in defending Israel, or if they were deemed to be the best by others. I mean, we don't know if these people were any more than Dowd liked them. Dowd trusted them because they were in the military or they did something productive for the country. But it's interesting, so we still have a fairly significant gathering for the time. And particularly for the root, because what the purpose was is Dowd wanted to bring the Ark of the Covenant under the tent that he had erected on the Temple Mount that he had acquired.
Yeah.
That's what he wanted to do. And so they would be lining the way, these 30,000 people. So he picked 30,000 people and they were going to line the way. So beyond all of the qualifications of Bakar, the chosen could be indicative of that what follows was presented for the best and the brightest today. Maybe we'll end up with 30,000 people returning to the garden. That would be a really nice number. I'm here to tell you, though, that once you've come to understand what God is trying to achieve with man and why we were booted out of the garden, if he ends up with 8 people that are interesting, devoted, dedicated, hardworking, learned, he's going to be thrilled. 8's a whole lot better than 0, right?
Yeah.
And if it's 80, so much the better. And if it's 800 or 8,000 or 30,000, great. But understand that no matter what the number is, the most important thing to God, based upon all of the things he said about the fulfillment of the Miqra going forth, there are 8 that are going to be responsible for the education of that remnant, and their success and being liberated from this planet will be how effective we are doing our job of not only teaching how to learn, but teaching how to act and engage in a productive way. So it'll be interesting. Anyway, setting the scene, our king was leading the procession away from the Lord's indulgences, we're going to find out. And we have a much clearer affirmation of this based upon reading that is found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, which adds considerable insights, I think, to the narrative. And it reads, when Dowd rose, standing and up and walking, all of the people, for the benefit of the relationship, were with him. And they left Baali, my onerous Lord. So that's where this whole procession started, with Baali, Baal is the Lord. He's the Lord and master. That's Satan. And my Baal would be my onerous Lord. That's not I guess that's a very good place to be leaving, right?
Yes.
Not a very good place to be going to, but if you're going to walk out of a place and away from something, that's a pretty good place to be walking away from. So I kind of like that from this is where it says specifically, this is where they left. This is where they came out of. So then it goes on to say, this was Arath Yaraim, the town of forested thickets, which belongs to Yahudah, the beloved of Yah. They would ascend from there with the Aaron, the ark. And Aaron means to behold all things pertaining to a harvest. I think that is a marvelous term for the Ark of the Covenant. Aaron is all things pertaining to a harvest. The own ending in Hebrew speaks of like Shabbaton. It means Zacharon. It means all things pertaining to the memorable man, all things pertaining to the Shabbat. And this was the Aaron of the Almighty. For the benefit of the relationship and to get the most out of life, we were doubling down on Asher. It is called, summoned, and proclaimed. We're identifying the Ark of the Covenant with Kara, base, which is the verbal basis of Miqra, exclusively through the name and reputation of Yahweh, of the vast array of spiritual messengers. He lives to restore and renew above the cherubim on it. So this means that Yahweh positions himself above the Ark of the Covenant, and his intent with the Ark of the Covenant is to restore and renew, and the symbolism of God's presence and his support and renewal are the cherubim. Now, the interesting thing about the Ark, if you were to look at the Ark of the Covenant, people always get this wrong. They have the wings of the cherubim kind of going in, and they're sitting in the middle. But that would be really uncomfortable. The mercy seat of the Ark of the Covenant is a throne. It is the Ark of the Covenant itself, and the mercy seat that sits on top of it is Dowd's throne. And so it has to act as a throne. And so what it means is that the wings that go out forward on it are on the left and right side. They are essentially armrests. You know how you see a throne and it have arm? Well, the two wings on the left and the right cherubim would be the armrests, and the cherubim would be right there in the on the corners, and their back wings would go across the back and meet, which means now you have a back to the throne. So the throne has a back, which are the wings, and has the wings that come out towards you, which are the armrests on the wings. And so that's the way they're pictured, creating a mercy seat and a throne out of this Aaron, which is to behold all things pertaining to a harvest. And so it is called by the name of Yahweh, and that Yahweh lives for the purpose to restore and renew, and he is above all of this and above the cherubim. So it appears that the town of forested thickets had come under the influence of the adversary, even though it should have been part of Yahudah, beloved of Yah. And while this may have been the motivation for removing it, I think, a bigger issue. For us to prevail with the Bakar, the select, we must encourage them to transition from being Jews to Yehudim, to getting out of religion and coming into the relationship that God intended, which I think is the meaning here. So the symbol of the covenant relationship, of course, it is symbolized by the Aaron, a name which invites us to foresee the harvests that are fulfilled because of it. And there are three harvests: Kipurym, which has been fulfilled; Shabuwa, which is in our future; and then Towrah, which is the pivotal event that begins the completion of the fall Miqra in year 6000 Yah, 33 CE. So the Ark of the Covenant is known by one name. God made that really clear. The Ark of the Covenant is known by the name of Yahweh. This is the only way to invoke its intent. which is to be invited into the family, reconciled by the father and son. Thereby, Yahweh exists to restore and renew the relationship. So far, we've really had two names that are mentioned, Yahweh's and Dowd's. And they're the ones who are identified with the Ark of the Covenant. So I rather like the man of the home that the Ark of the Covenant had rested. We need more of his ilk. Although there is something unusual that I think is occurring here that should jump out and grab our attention. And check it out and see if you can discern what I think is an anomaly. I'll share it with you because what seems inconsequential now could be the fulcrum upon which this story pivots from a tragedy, and there is a tragedy that we're going to see along the way, to ultimately to triumph. And it reads, they mounted Yahweh's Aaron ark onto a restored utility cart, and they lifted it up and they carried it out of the house of Abi Nadab, which means my father encourages the willing to volunteer. And it was on a hilltop. So Uzzah, bold and strong. You know, the Wizard of Oz. Well, it's from Oz or Uz. Mighty influencer. Is the name. Uzzah, bold and strong, the mighty influencer, and Achio, who is my brother, related fellow might be another way to translate it. They were the sons of Abi Nadab. My father encourages the willing to volunteer. And they were leading and guarding the cart with the ark of God. And Achio, my brother, walked before the ark. Now, this is interesting because is the Ark of the Covenant designed to be put on a cart?
Nope. It's got poles. You carry it.
Carried.
That's right. It has loops for poles on both sides, and the long pole. We know this because when Solomon put it finally into the temple, and even when Yahweh was describing it to Moshe and how it's going to work, two long poles go on the sides, and you have men on both sides, both ends and both sides that carry it. That's the way it was designed to be carried. But it's been a long time since it's been moved, and so they put it on a cart. Do you know why they put it on a cart?
Story coming.
Yeah, there is a story coming. Because the cart was pulled by a bakar, which is a bull.
Yeah.
So the cart was being moved into Jerusalem by a bull.
Yeah.
A bull's an interesting character in God's story, right? In fact, it's a bull that's responsible for all of this later on and getting the ark properly positioned so that Dowd can anoint it even with the bull's blood, correct?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's on a cart, so it could be pulled by a bull because God wanted to write the bull into this story.
Amazing.
All right, so the oddity is that the Aaron was placed on a cart. That's the oddity. And rather than being carried the way it had been specifically designed. And so now you should be attuned to say, why? Why aren't they just doing it the right way? Why is it on a cart? And come to find out, the reason that it's not on a cart with the poles is because Yahweh wanted to demonstrate that it's going to be pulled into Jerusalem, or at least pulled in that direction, by a bull until man mucks it up. So that's the anomaly that I think is significant. So then it was supposed to be the priests, of course, that were carrying it under that basis. But this time, as we shall soon witness, the ark was being brought home by the labor of a bakar, a bull. And so, worth noting, Uzzah, the influencer's name, is masculine, and it's as one would expect of a man, of course. And I share this because in a moment, God is going to change his name to Uzzah. So here it is U-Z-A, and it's going to change to U-Z and then the hey at the end of it to make it feminine. So that is a really interesting thing. It's the name is going to be written one way, and then it's going to be written the other way, right in the middle of the same story. That doesn't happen by happenstance. So what he's doing is he's taking this influencer and turning the influencer into a woman. Okay. That doesn't miss a trick. He's really, but you have to get up early in the morning, baby, if you're going to keep pace with the boss. He is an early riser. Oh, by the way, the bakar, the thing that distinguishes that bull is that bull gets up early in the morning. It's associated with early morning, which is, by the way, when the bull is going to be sacrificed. It's as the sun rises on Towrah. So anyway, I'm giving you a lot of clues here, but the name of the bull becomes Uzzah, which is feminine. So the influencer is and assistants are feminine. And for the first time, since the text was inspired by Yahweh, we're going to explain why that was the case. Also, while we can appreciate the fact that Yahweh is encouraging volunteers to work with us and in the proper positioning of the Ark of the Covenant, which is very important, the fellow leading the possession was presented as a brother. And since he was not related to Dowd, the familiar relationship was predicated on the Be'eth covenant. So he's related to Dowd through the covenant. All right. So far, so good. The ark was headed home to the summit of Mount Moriah as Yahweh's son, Dowd, celebrated the occasion. And from this, we can be assured that Dowd had a relaxed, fun-loving relationship with his father, and they were all celebrating with him, as had Yahweh when he named Yishak, which means, to party down, have fun. Yishak means to laugh, to enjoy life. So then Dowd and the children of Yisra'el, they were Sha'ak, which is the basis of Yishak. They were laughing and playing. They were having a good time before the presence of Yahweh and all of their strength and of their songs, and with lyres and harps and tambourines and castanets and cymbals. We're going to make this fun. We're going to make it really, really entertaining for everybody. So this frivolity, while insightful and to some extent, I think, appropriate, of course, would soon come to a crashing halt. I guess that's why they're cymbals. Yes, we are encouraged to celebrate our relationship with Yahweh, but we have some responsibilities too, and we need to take them seriously. There are things that God is relying on us to do, and we need to listen to him and to do those things in the manner that he has instructed, right? And it can't be, you can't have everybody that is partying all the time. So somebody's got to do some listening and have some follow through that's based upon God's instruction. Mm-hmm. So in this case, prior preparation would have been exceedingly helpful.
Yes.
So Dowd was about to experience a startling life and death incident, and he interpreted incorrectly. Now, the beauty of that is, what is the purpose of us being booted from Eden?
To learn.
To learn, right? To make mistakes and to grow from them, and to show that when we're down and we're out and we don't have the answer, that we'll take the time, we'll find it, and we will grow from there. We'll get up, we'll dust ourselves off. And this man, he partied hardy once God explained to him what's really going on here. So that's the answer. And so if you find somebody that is right all the time and has been right from the beginning and has never been anything but right, and his life is nothing but a waltz through lollipops and tulips, that person ain't working for God. He doesn't have anybody like that in his story. So anyway, he interpreted. Pardon? Yeah, no.
Yeah, he was perfect from childhood.
Yeah. No, we have no perfections. No, this idea, the baby Jesus, he was perfect. He became the perfect lamb, and as a man God, they killed him. I don't know. My God's not very strong if they killed him. But another story. Anyway, Dowd absolutely interpreted the events incorrectly. He had a meltdown, as a matter of fact. He drew the wrong conclusion, while temporarily contravening his relationship with Yahweh.
Wow.
That's not a good thing.
No.
So I've made other mistakes. We know you don't get to edit your own books 10 to 20 times per edition if you're not learning something along the way and trying to make some improvements, right? So I've made, but I can tell you one thing: I've not made this one. I've gotten mad at God a couple of times, like when my wife was being trashed by this mother goddess cult, and they were just ruthless. In fact, the last one where they were saying that she hated Dr. Jeff, and she was a complete fraud because she really hated Dr. Jeff. And you're going, oh my God, if Dr. Jeff has a woman that, apart from mother and wife, that love him as much as my wife loves him, then he is a really lucky man. Then he's done something in his life that causes a very bright woman to care deeply. I don't think, other than myself, that I've ever seen Leah be more devoted to or care more about somebody that she does Dr. Jeff. And to see her trashed over that, I went to God and said, come on, God, that's not our deal. This is not right. And he did have a little talk with me and said, okay, well, wait till you watch how this is going to play out. You ain't seen nothing yet, kid. This is going to be really fun. Okay. So anyway, having recently studied Bamidbar, Numbers 15, I know that Dowd should have seen what I saw. And in Bamidbar, Numbers 15, not only do we see why the guy got in such trouble because he tried to dig up the two trees. Two trees were the tree of knowledge and the tree of lives. He wasn't playing with sticks. He was playing with trees. But we also learned that God has a plan, and there are a ram, a bull, and a goat that make that plan play out over time. And here he had the bull, and Dowd didn't see it. So having read Numbers 15, now I see it, but I'm pretty attuned to it now. So Dowd probably should have realized that the Bakar bull plays an exceptional and an important role in God's plan for his people, and in particular pursuant to positioning the Ark of the Covenant where it belongs, under the tent of the restoring witness on the Temple Mount, rid of the Islamic boil and trophy, and then even providing the blood to anoint it. So the bull plays a real important role in this, and he should have seen that. And we are aware that Dowd's Bashar, his herald, as the parar, the productive bull, is the one who will be knocked down on Towrah, on the threshing floor of the Temple Mount. And it's all to remove the indebtedness of the final remnant of Yisra'el prior to the Ark of the Covenant returning to its proper place, and then Dowd anointing it on Kipurym. So therefore, this episode with the Bakar was prophetic of what was to come on a far more important threshing floor than the one they were crossing at this point. So here we get to the meat of the story. And when they arrived upon the threshing floor, the Goren of Nodan, Nodan means to removing all traces of wavering and wandering. That's pretty good with the names. Uzzah, bold and influential, reached out with his hand towards the Aron, the ark, to behold the ingathering of the Almighty. He seized control of it because Habakar, the bull, was released and thrown down in the process of canceling debts, freeing those who were indebted from all obligations. Shamuel listened to him, 2 Samuel 6:6. So it's evident by Dowd's thesis and synopsis of the Torah in the 119th and the 19th Mizmor Psalms that our king was a student of God's teaching. So he should have understood this, because the role of the bull is very clearly articulated in the foundation of the covenant, in the presentation even of what happens when Yahweh is establishing the covenant narrative with Abraham. And then again throughout the Torah presentation. He should have known that. And he should have understood the connection with Bamidbar, Numbers 15, with the ram and the goat.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think that, and he should have understood Bamidbar, Numbers 19 and Numbers 5. He should have seen that he is the groom for whom the adulterous woman is being purged of her guilt so that he can marry her. But I think Dowd's lack in understanding and his errant interpretation of these events is really by design. You see, by failing to draw the correct interpretation of what he was witnessing, and by not instructing the people appropriately, Dowd could come to serve as an exceedingly important example of how Yahweh works with and through us. Now, this is because upon further review, a little time out, Dowd, who was initially wrong, he would learn the truth. He would correct his mistake, and he would not only set the record straight and establish the proper example, he went crazy, man. He was dancing, he was celebrating, he was doing it all. He even put on the ephod, the symbol of the high priest, because that's the role he has to play on Kipurym. Mm-hmm. And then he got naked, everything else, because we're going back to the garden, and that was symbolic of the proper wardrobe for the return to Eden, right? And he was partying hardy. And what you'll find is that God says, I got a guy. That guy's going to take care of this for you. You just need to rely on the guy. The guy's diligent. I've tested him. I've trusted him. I taught him. He's going to do this job for you. You just enjoy your king. You enjoy this process. And Dowd did. So okay. that's the beauty, right, of the story. So God wanted everyone to learn what I think is a very valuable lesson, one that would restore Israel in the end and enable his return as king. He didn't want this episode to pass without further reflection. After all, this is really life and death. This is the final remnant of Yisra'el. This is our return to Eden. This is our opportunity to equip this final remnant for the liberation of this rock into the stratosphere. After all, this was life and death, and not just for one man, but for the nation, for the entirety of the people, for the planet, for universal exploration thereafter. So the nuances we should not miss include that this occurred on a goren, on a threshing floor. This is not just symbolic of the threshing floor that Dowd had previously purchased atop the Temple Mount on Moriah, that would serve as the home of the Temple Mount, because gorens are flat. So that should also tell you something. Was any chance that cart was going to turn over if you were on the flatness of a threshing floor?
No.
He wasn't trying to stabilize the cart to keep it from tipping over. He wanted credit for him being the one that was responsible for positioning it. And he grabbed hold of it for that reason, had no chance that the ox, as sure-footed as they are, and a cart is going to tip over on the flattened floor of a threshing floor. So it's not just symbolic of the threshing floor that Dowd had previously purchased. Because goren are flat, the Bakar bull did not stumble, and there was no chance that the ark was going to fall. God was telling his story his way, and this guy intervened and got in the way. Second, with the benefit of the Dead Sea Scrolls, we now know that the threshing floor was known by its owner to remove wavering and wandering away. This is
it's good.
It's good. Yeah. This is precisely what is achieved by the sacrifice, of course, of the Adam of Parah, who just happens to be a productive bull, who serves in this role on the goren of the Temple Mount on Towrah. Specifically in Bamidbar, Numbers 15, we're told that his role is to remove the guilt of omission rather than commission. By reaching out and grabbing that cart, that was an act of commission. That's why it wasn't forgivable. Couldn't be forgiven. Third, Uzzah, the bold influence, inappropriately extended himself asserting himself where he obviously did not belong. He committed a crime of commission. This is Yahweh's story, and God has chosen the 3 individuals that he has authorized to and appointed really to interact with the Ark of the Covenant. It's God's story. There's 3 fellows, and they're just described by 3 animals symbolically, so you understand their role. They are Dowd as the ram, Yada as the bull, and Elia as the goat. There are few crimes from God's point of view worse than interfering to negate what God is trying to convey and teach. And, we have to get in the habit of listening to what God's telling us and then acting accordingly. I don't think it's a lot to ask since we're being trusted throughout the cosmos. So this man turned woman explicitly tried to gain control of something essential to the survival of Yisra'el and the continuance of Yahweh's plans for not only his son, but for his people. Also, fourth, the Aaron was adroitly named for this moment in time. Behold, the impending harvest, the ingathering. The stars of the show were now the Melech and the Bakar and the Aaron and the Goren. And fifth, Yahweh selected the ideal verb for the occasion. The Bakar bull will shamat. He will release the malak that are protecting him, so that the adversary, Hasatan, can shamat, throw him to the ground, and beat him to death. The stated purpose is to shamat, cancel the debts of the assembled mortal remnant of Yisra'el, and prepare them for Yahweh's arrival and Dowd's return. The bull will free God's people from the obligations so that they can be purged of their guilt. He chose verbs and names of places that expressly state what is being achieved. But you got to look at the words to know that. So this is the crux of the story, because the bull will be responsible for properly repositioning the ark of the covenant, for shedding his blood to anoint the mercy seat, and to make the Israelites presentable so that they are better prepared to meet with Yahweh than they were 3,470 years ago. So, should this not play out as intended, there'll be no Kipurym homecoming. There'll be no final reconciliation. There'll be no return to the garden, and we'll never get off this rock. So therefore, the great frustration and displeasure, the zealous and deep consternation of Yahweh was directed at Uzzah, assisting the feminine portrayal of imprudence and resistance. The man's name became a woman. He became a woman. So the Almighty struck and destroyed this person, killing them right there over the imprudent and rash act, this indiscretion and error, because they had reached out with their hand on the ark, and the individual died right there before God. This was a life and death issue for the entire nation, for our planet, to reboot Eden. So Yahweh was painting a picture that he wanted everyone to understand, and someone got in the way and mucked up the message, contravening his intent. And God was exceedingly displeased with that. He was so exasperated with the instruction that he exterminated the perpetrator, and he shocked his son in the process. Dowd was a little tender-hearted about this kind of stuff. God's not. God says, if I need to take out those who are counter to what we're trying to achieve so that we have success with a remnant, I will do it.
Here's a warning.
Yeah, because it's the ends not only justify the means, but that person only has life because I gave it to them. So I'm not taking anything away from them to shorten the gift that I had given them. And that ultimately this is going to lead to a remnant being liberated to explore the cosmos. We have a lot to accomplish here. So it's important that somebody at least listens to what I'm saying and follows the script. Now, since I have alerted you to this transition, preparing you to appreciate really Yahweh's subtlety, you probably noticed, I think Rich put up the text, that Uzzah, a masculine influencer, became Uzzah, a feminine influencer. And I think this is because this now is prophetic of the mother goddess cult trying to detail Yahweh's intentions with this bull. And I have to say that, do you know why I finally at long last turned to translate 2 Samuel 6 after having translated 2 Samuel 7, 4,000 times? Why did I finally, and after 24 years of having 2 Samuel 7 be the first passage I ever translated and the most often translated and my favorite prophecy of all time, why did I never go to 2 Samuel 6 until now? You know why?
You weren't confronted with the situation.
What?
You weren't confronted with the situation.
Yeah, the reason is that I had made a statement that caused a tremendous backlash of some people calling me all sorts of disgusting names and a liar, and Leah all sorts of names, and 3 people in particular. And one of them is particularly ruthless also to Dr. Jeff at the bottom. And they did so because they were horrified that I pointed out that we're going back to the garden, and that in the garden, they didn't wear anything but a smile.
Yep.
And they were very, very comfortable being exposed to Yahweh and being exposed to one another. And that it wasn't until they acted really stupidly that they became concerned, and they took the religious approach to let's cover everything up. But before that, they were naked. And so I pointed out they were naked. And guess what? The reason I went to this passage and started to translate it again and to consider it is because guess how Dowd is going to dress for the return of that ark to Jerusalem?
That's
His birthday.
Yeah, he was wearing one
ephod.
thing. He had
Just
the
the
ephod,
ephod.
and everything else was naked, and he was dancing and partying hardy in Yahweh's presence. And he had a woman, his first wife, Miqra, who said, "You've disgraced yourself, being parading out here in bare ass naked. It's just disgusting, and you're making this all up. You're really not Yahweh's guy. You're writing yourself into the story. You're completely fooling yourself and everybody else. You're totally insignificant. You've embarrassed yourself even amongst the concubines. You've got nothing that is kabod about you that is meaningful or significant." And Dowd said, "Well, now that you've brought up the concubines, I'll go visit them and we'll let them decide if I'm kabod or not." One of the great
Boy.
comeback lines of all time. That's down the road in this. It'll be another show that we get to that. But that's why I turned to this, was that I wanted to say, being naked at the right time around God shows that you're very comfortable in his presence.
Yeah.
So that was the whole reason for turning to this. I knew that it had a Dowd that was doing that. Yes.
Can we do something about the mosquitoes, though?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Before we do that,
I don't want mosquito bites.
Yeah, what you're going to find out is that as I've written this 70, 80 pages so far on going back to the beginning to the garden, there are 2 places where Yahweh identifies the rebellious clan as mosquitoes. So he actually calls them blood-sucking mosquitoes.
So I can do without mosquitoes and without wasps.
Yes, well, so the mosquitoes, God's already onto them. He's certainly going to take care of them. So if you were wondering, God's got that under control too. You really got to get up early in the morning, Kirk, if you're going to outwit God.
Interesting how mosquitoes almost did you in many moons ago.
Me too.
I got malaria.
50
And it's
years
also
ago.
interesting that when it comes to mosquitoes, it's only the females that bite. It's true. I don't. You're laughing. It's true with the mosquito. Only the female mosquitoes bite. The male mosquito, they don't bite. It's you're laughing like you don't think it's true. Look it up. It's
true. The Anopheles female mosquito will give you malaria, and there are 4 types.
Yeah. Yep. And so that's just the truth. It's when God goes with a metaphor, pal. As I say, you got to get up really early in the morning if you're going to beat him. I've just finally listened to say, okay, you win. I'll play along, but you don't top the dad here in the story. Anyway, Uzzah became a feminine influencer, just as he was killed. Not good for feminine influencers going forward, I don't think, that interfere with the Ark of the Covenant, which, by the way, is Yahweh's. So this is because, and this is now prophetic, obviously, of the mother goddess cult, which is why I turned to this in the first place. And who would have thunk that God would have had that little teaser in there saying, there's not one person in all of history that has figured this out, that I changed the gender of the influencer from man to woman. But you're welcome, kid. I got your back. So, and it is this woman that is interfering with the intentions of the bull, and therefore God's animosity is directed towards the psychotic woman who lives to direct her feminine followers such that they ruin Yahweh's plans, and that they have excluded themselves from them. And as he said, she calls them mosquitoes. So now as we look upon this, it becomes immediately obvious who the woman is who assisted the other woman and who imprudently projects herself into God's story. And this identification is rather important, since Yahweh wouldn't have bothered to change the man's name to a woman's, nor reveal his disdain, even disgust, if he was not foretelling what would occur in conjunction with the first time this prophecy was ever revealed and explained. Our Father struck and destroyed the perpetrator, because the imprudent act of indiscretion, as a result of interfering in the story of our salvation of Yisra'el, was far too important to allow anyone, under any circumstances, to get in the way. Therefore, pay attention. Stay very far away from this evil woman's grasp. She is trying to topple the Bakar, the bull, that Yahweh has positioned to forgive the debts of his people. Assisting the mother goddess is a life and death decision, as she tries to manipulate the covenant, grasping it for herself. But
actually, Craig, life and death would be good. Death would be good. We're talking about Sheol and eternal damnation for doing so.
Yeah, God's really very clear about the consequence of this cult at this time. While I'm grateful for them now, because I've learned so much in terms of how God has taught us to handle these kinds of things, and seen prophecies that just transform our understanding of God's entire purpose and intent, the fact is that God's not humored by them. And as we read in the 35th Mizmor that we just completed, that rendition, God is really upset about what they have done. He is beyond imagination disgusted. And the very fact that they would pretend that they're speaking for a spirit mom, when there isn't one line anywhere that comes from a spirit mom, and there is no spirit mom, and they claim that they're speaking for spirit moms, means they're speaking for the mother goddess herself, the lead mosquito. Well, there's more to this story. The conspirators not only want to negate the benefits of the Adam of Parah for closing on his sacrifice, they want to silence Yahweh's voice. Their claim is that even though there is no candidates to fulfill the roles that Yahweh is proclaimed, 1,000 prophecies regarding this mission that needs to be done, that nonetheless I must be disqualified from serving Yahweh in any capacity, since I am learning on the job. Can't have that, not in work for, but they're not even learning on the job. So I don't know how they think they're going to speak for a spirit mom when they got out of the gates wrong and haven't found anything yet that even has even an inkling of right, and have been nothing but wrong. But nonetheless, they can speak for spirit mom and be wrong from the beginning. And you can't speak for the Father and be right about 1,000, 10,000 things, and over the course of that 10,000 things, make some enhancements and refinements on a few of them.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be like Moshe. You can't be like Dowd. That doesn't seem to make much sense to me.
No.
No, just think about it.
So, like Moshe and Dowd, I've made mistakes, and I've learned from them, and I've gotten back up. And the first thing I do is say, I don't think that's right. I think we can improve our understanding of that. Let's go back and let's edit the story and make it right. This is the whole process. That's the whole thing we're trying to achieve outside the garden, to show that we can be trusted to acknowledge what's right, and also that when we fall, that we can get back up.
Mm-hmm.
You think God wants somebody that's going to hang with for a trillion years and explore 2 trillion galaxies, that if he trips up, that he can't get back up? God's not a babysitter.
Right.
God. Yeah. Everybody ever got any character that's been right about everything all their lives and never had to struggle to overcome an obstacle? Isn't the voice that God declares is going to create this raised highway in the wilderness from man's world to God's world? Doesn't it specifically say he has to remove the obstacles?
Yeah.
Making mistakes and overcoming adversity.
That's how you grow, man.
Being resilient.
If you look at medicine, that's how medicine grew, right?
Absolutely.
Science works.
That's how everything that we have achieved that has value, and building things, that have value as humans, is a good thing. It's how we achieve in everything. That's how science works. That's how people learn and think and grow. Anyway, it's also like Moshe and Dowd. So, I've made some mistakes and I've learned from them. This is how Yahweh wants to work with all of us, since the process is so evident in the life of God's Son. He was a prophet, and yet he was wrong. But upon learning additional information, he corrected the record and he moved on, wiser and better for the experience. And once you have been down and you get up, then those that are around you know you can be trusted. They don't know you can be trusted until you have overcome a difficult situation.
Not only that, you can also teach others after you learn, so that they won't make your mistake, but they'll make new mistakes.
We would not have JB in our company if I were not uniquely, as an author, saying that I have made mistakes, and when I make a mistake, I'll admit that is wrong, and I'll go back immediately, not only announce it, but will correct it. And that those people are so far and few between. It's what ultimately brought us together.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Go where the words take you, and if you learn that the words took you on a circuitous route, correction.
Go there. Yeah, the fact of the matter is that understanding is the product of knowing. So you're observant, so you know. And then you make the connections and you come to understand. And the more you know, the bigger the foundation you have, the more you can see the connections between things, and you can migrate to a better option for things, a better conclusion. One of my biggest mistakes was actually something that really a very lovely concept. And that is that on the Miqra, we're asked to come into the Isha, which is fire in Hebrew. And it's written in the feminine form. So I extrapolated, well, that must be maybe the feminine aspect of Yahweh's nature, which is projected through the Ruach, which is a feminine noun. And maybe that's what the prophet Isaiah meant when he said there's going to be a garment of light. And I said, well, isn't that a very lovely way that we could be perfected by Yahweh on matzah? You're trying to understand what the process was. And it's okay. Well, it's kind of a lovely thought, and it makes connections between things. But then you come to understand that there's nothing given to us on matzah, and matzah isn't about light at all. It's about taking our guilt and taking it to the darkest places in the universe.
Yeah.
And it's deposited there. And if our guilt is deposited in a place that can never be seen because it's a black hole, darkness, then do we need a garment of light to look perfect, or are we already perfect because our guilt has been removed?
Yeah, you don't even know yet.
The latter. Yeah.
Right. So once you come to understand something that no one had ever perceived before, that it was Dowd who fulfilled Passover, which means his soul fulfilled matzah and took our guilt into Sheol to deposit it there, never to be seen again. You don't need a mechanism for us to appear perfect. And now you realize that the purpose of that fire was that it's transformational, that the decaying and rotten nature of our flesh can be transformed so that the carrier, the envelope that our soul resides in, goes from the limitations of a physical body to the emancipation of light and energy. So now we're prepared and equipped to go explore the universe, the cosmos. And so you migrate to this, and they say, oh, well, now we have a perfect explanation for all of this, and we don't need the other, which was lovely and seemed plausible and harmless and all of that sort of thing. And you just grow and say, but,
Better.
yeah, here's God's actual explanation for it. So let's go with that.
You adjust and you optimize.
Right.
I mean, you could even use some of your analogies as an ATP. When you've gotten into trouble, you could use that very well about talking about having the right training and stressing and learning. And
right. You to be a pilot, you're constantly put in the worst possible situations by depending on the level of skill. But once you're trying to get your ATP, which is the highest of them, your flight instructor and your examiner is going to put you in the absolute worst possible situation. I mean, you're going to be upside down in a jet with asymmetrical thrust because one engine has quit and the other engine is working, and you're disoriented, and it's the visibility is 0 because you're under a hood, and your damn airplane is upside down and falling out of the sky. And they will put you in that position of all bad things to see, can you think your way out of it? And until you can think your way out of it 100% of the time, you're not licensed to serve under that ATP certificate. So I mean, you are correct. There are things in life that prepare you for that whole process. When you're a pilot, what you're doing is you're constantly thinking anywhere from 5 minutes to 30 minutes ahead of the aircraft. You can't be thinking about where you are, because if you're thinking about where you are, anything happens, it's too late. You've got to be thinking about where you're going, not where you are. The same thing is true with a boat. You just don't, with a large boat, you're not quite as far out as you're on an airplane, because an airplane, you're working in 3 dimensions, not 2 dimensions, and you're moving much faster. So one of the things we do is we go through scenarios where you see, a pilot might just see what's going through the man's mind. We're thinking about, if I were to lose an engine now, what would I do? If I were to lose hydraulics now, if I were to lose my instruments now, or down the road, what would I do to recover? What is my plan? If I lost my radios, what is the plan? How would you solve it? And you're constantly going through that. So it's the whole discipline of being in a situation where everything goes wrong and making the best you can out of it and working safely through it. That's and proving that you're trustworthy to do so, that you've got the knowledge and the experience and the thought process that you can do it. Until you can prove that, you can't be trusted to go fly people in an airplane. It's same thing here with YAHOWAH. You can't be trusted to be liberated into the cosmos until you can prove that you can be in a difficult situation and show that you can think your way out of it and be reliable to do so. You're not qualified to teach people. So all of this, I think, is because it is far better for YAHOWAH, for Dowd, for Yisra'el, for the covenant family, and for everyone to have been mistaken and to learn from it and to grow as a result of it, and to show that you can be trusted, that if you make a mistake, you'll admit it and be better for it. This is, you find people like Trump, when he does something stupid, he'll go off and blame everybody else and never take responsibility. Those are the people you want to run from. When Adam and Towrah both were asked, why did you do this thing? The first thing is that Adam said, well, it wasn't me. The woman you gave me,
Right.
she handed it to me. He was trying to blame God and the woman as opposed to himself, for he had the instruction and he ignored it. And so he passed the buck. He wouldn't take responsibility for his mistake. And if he had, I think God would have been quite different in his response. And then when he questioned the woman, he said, no, not my thing. That serpent, he was the one. He tricked me, and that's why they couldn't accept responsibility for their mistake. And God's not going to trust somebody that can't do that. That's the lesson there.
It's imperative to be accountable. Accountability is important.
Yeah. Whether you want to put it to the point of God made a mistake or not, and I'm going to say that he made a mistake for the purpose of this illustration. When YAHOWAH said, I'm going to come down, Moshe, from this mountain, and I'm going to speak directly to the children of Israel, because it's important that they know that I, the creator God of the universe, am the one who is authorizing you and who is speaking through you and is communicating through you, that I've designated you for this role, and it's me that is the voice behind this. And God did as he had intended, and rather than getting anything out other than, I am God, they immediately said, go away. Your fire scares us. Your voice scares us. We'd rather die than be in your presence. Go away. Shut up. We don't want to ever hear from you or see you again. So would you call that plan that ended up backfiring, so that rather than reassuring the people, that scared them spitless and they said, we don't ever want to see you again, would you call that a mistake?
Yeah.
I think so. I think God, now, did God know they were going to respond that way? He could have, if he wanted to. It doesn't necessarily mean he did, because he doesn't always have to know the future. Sometimes if you know the future, it's hard to live in the moment, right? Mm-hmm. And just because he can doesn't mean he always does. Relationships are that way. If God took every relationship all the way out to the end, then there's no enjoyment along the way, right?
Yeah.
And so he maybe did, maybe he didn't, but it didn't work out. And God's first response was he took responsibility. He says, they're right. I won't do it that way anymore.
Yeah.
So
for the
here's God.
God. He regretted making man.
Yeah, he did. Absolutely.
That's a mistake. You regret your mistakes.
Right. And so it wasn't only the fall of man in the garden, then the fall, but the Nephilim had to fall too, didn't they? Mm-hmm. And God says, I regret making man. So yes. So is God capable of making a mistake? Yes. And is he capable of admitting that he made a mistake? Mm-hmm. Yes. And is he capable of telling us, hey, here's the upside of that mistake? The upside of this mistake of you don't want to hear directly from me is I've got some guys. I've positioned them in place a long time ago. In fact, God knew that this was going to be the case because he introduced the greater and lesser luminary in Genesis 1. And then he introduced the two trees, knowledge and lives, in Bereshith 2. He had the pieces in place already.
How old are you?
How old? I knew you were going to say that. I just knew you were going to say that. I don't think I look a day over 500.
Oh,
but
okay.
Right.
Fantastic.
but depending on when you dial into the story, it's either 500 million or 3,500. Yeah.
Well, Yah came up with the ultimate Plan B, Plan Bashar.
Yes, it is Plan B. It's Plan Bashar. We're going to have a herald, and he's going to be a human. It's a beautiful story, I think, the way that he told it. So this is all because this way that it happens reveals that even the most loved and beloved of Yahweh's prophets and co-workers, the Messiah and King, his chosen one, the very Son of God, can fall short in understanding, form an errant conclusion, and then take the occasion to learn more, correct his mistake, and move forward greater for it. The way that he would celebrate coming in, man, he was all in when he understood the picture God was painting. All in. So I'll share this, and we'll probably end this program. We've gone 2.5 hours. Yahweh was angry. Excuse me, not Yahweh was. Well, Yahweh was angry at what the female influencer did. Dowd was angry. He was even enraged, it says. Because for the benefit of the relationship, he was hostile towards and broken up about. Paratz. It was really broken up about Yahweh's anger coming forth, reaching the gap and breaking with the female Uzzah, the female influencer, Uzzah. This imprudent feminine action that was so forceful in resistance. And so this place is called by the name Paratz Uzzah, the breakdown and the breach caused by the imprudence of this influential woman, as an enduring witness to this day. So Dowd he wasn't with the program, man. He was upset with God. Rich knows that it was about a month ago when this constant, relentless attack online of the currency of this job, which is credibility. And this cult was just being vulgar and destroying the credibility of the Tree of Knowledge and of Yada, the voice now of Yahweh in this role, and of my wife and everything, and disparaging all of you in the process. And I just said, come on, God. It's one thing to be criticized by the MAGAs and the Marxists and the Muslims and the Christians and the rabbinic types. That's what we expect. That goes with the territory. But people that I was close to, that called themselves family, for them to be the vicious ones, that's come on, it's too close to home. And then God says, I've got this under control. You'll sit tight, and you're going to learn exactly why this is happening. And we're not going to let this material go to waste. It's some of the best material I've ever written.
Indeed. You had to have your Absalom moment.
You had to have it. Yep, absolutely. And I had my Dowd moment here. Yep. So our king was not near the same thing to say, I'm upset that we made a deal, and the protection of the home and family is part of that deal. And these are insiders. This is a fractured family, and they're attacking my wife and my credibility. And credibility is the currency of this job. You cannot do it without the credibility of confidence. And so I said, this is not good. Now, the fact is, for the most part, they go dark, but they hashtag my name every place they can, so that if you search for my name, you're as likely to come up to one of their mosquito-ridden sites as you are the correct message. So anyway, we'll return to this in our next program. But what you have right now is an unhappy king and an unhappy God and a dead feminine influencer. And what we're going to see is that God introduces a fellow named Obed-Edom, and he is from the wine vat. And he is the one who repositions that ark, and that Dowd can party hardy. And have you read anything about a man from Edom that's in a wine vat with a fellow named YAHOWAH? Does that ring a bell with anybody?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's
Yeah, it's that man from Edom that jumps into the wine vat that YAHOWAH says, "That's my Zeroah."
that's
And
my
I've been treading this wine vat all by myself, and now he's in it too. And he is the man from Edom that's dressed in bloody red. And through what I have written, he is going to save many. And that is that same fella, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this becomes one of the great prophecies ever. And it's the one that goes into Dowd saying, you know, I've got a respite from all of this. I'm having a great time. I'm sitting here in my beautiful home in my city, and I got it all under control, and I got the Ark of the Covenant properly positioned up there. What we need now is to build a house for YAHOWAH out of cedar, as opposed to that curtain up there. And God just says, not yet. Not yet. We're going to have a little chat about this. I'm the dad. You're the kid. I took you out of the sheepfolds of tending lammies to take care of my family. You're not building a home for me, kids. I'm building a home for you. And that's the beauty of the story. It's one of the great stories ever. And that's where we are in the midst of this. And we're about to find out all about Obed-Edom and what he does and how Dowd responds, and then how an embittered woman that is part of the fractured family, Dowd's wife, how she responds, and how Dowd responds to her, and what YAHOWAH says in the end of it. And it is, as I can see the smirk on Kevin's face, it's one of the great stories ever told.
It is good.
It's really good. I think in a way, Miqra might have been the first on record with borderline personality disorder.
I think so. If you read what she says, she reminds me a lot of my ex. She reminds me a lot of the Mother Goddess cult. Now, you know, you're writing yourself into the story. You're really not who you claim to be. That's what her claim was, and you're embarrassing yourself and all that sort of thing. And Dowd had the greatest answer, the greatest comeback of all time. And YAHOWAH said, "That's my boy."
Yeah.
That's my boy.
Dowd is
Okay.
kabod. Dowd is kabod.
Yeah, Dowd. We'll ask the concubines what they think about my kabod.
Wow.
And of course, he was naked, which undercuts the entire claim that I was wrong in saying that God's bringing us back to the garden. And the beauty of that story is that those who are right with God, who have shown that they are trustworthy, who are working to educate themselves and others, who are building something with God that has value, that they're very comfortable being exposed in God's presence. We don't dress up fancy. We're very comfortable around God. And that's the story with Dowd, and then as he dons the get up of the high priest, it proves that we were right about what's in Zechariah, about the Dowd fulfilling that role. So it's just so reaffirming. Every time we turn around, God has got another affirmation of our role in this and the way we're going to work together, including, you know, now the realization that, you know, we're going to be, as a team of 8 in particular, we are going to be employed now for 8 plus 1,000 years. So we have tenure. This is a really good thing. Might be a very long time till we get a vacation, but you know, when your work is fun, who needs a vacation?
Right.
Although, you know, the beauty of this whole thing out is that we're still going to be coming back as immortals. As you know, we're going to have our souls enveloped in light, which means that when we come back to Earth, we will be placed back in a physical body to do our work. But we're also going to be able to sneak out from every now and again, covered in light. And when we're sneaking out every now and then and covered in light, we could take a second and turn it into a year. So if you wanted a year vacation, we want to go and there's a paradise planet that we can all hang at and have a great time for a year, just to just to enjoy one another and have some fun, we can do that over a second that lasts a year, and then come back and not have missed a beat here on Earth.
The teacher's lounge.
The teacher's lounge. We're going to go into the teacher's lounge, and the teacher's lounge is going to be really extraordinary. You know, it could
I
be
expect Kirk and Sylvia to continue documenting it to show all the Kirk and Sylvia.
I think so. We'll take Sylvia. Yeah, we'll take Sylvia there. We'll have her paint and we'll have Leah make a video and a song on it. And we'll have Patty give us a thumbs up. She's really good at the thumbs up on the whole process, and somebody's going to have to make it work online. So we've got Kevin, you and Rich are going to stream the whole thing, and there we go.
As long as you've got free coffee, I'm in.
Yeah, well, you can come here, and we, as Rich knows, man, we have drawers full of it. We have coffee makers everywhere and drawers full of it. We run on coffee. You don't get up at 5 a.m. and go after this job without coffee.
Right.
Yeah. Coffee is our drug of choice.
Caffeine will be the DOC of the Covenant family. There you go.
It is. I'm personally, I don't know if I'm even affected by coffee and the caffeine anymore, but because I don't have that much, and I don't have it any time after typically. Well, I do it only on this show because we're going 2.5 hours, and a little coffee probably is helpful. I just love I love the warmth and the flavor of black coffee. I just think it's just a really satisfying beverage. And I guess if your strongest drug is a cup of coffee, that's probably okay.
Right.
Yeah, probably okay. So here's to coffee. It's been a wonderful show. I can't wait. We'll proceed with this. And Kevin, our next vlog on the blog is going to be introduced by Wookie, and it is it's a spectacular introduction. Wookie, you guys have not seen it yet, but Wookie does the introduction for the vlog on the blog, and it's hilarious.
That's good work.
Yeah, good work. Leah has actually written 3 songs this week. We were going to play one of them at the beginning of this show, so we have more to play. It was too big to load, so we have to figure out a way to strum it down. And there was a song that we had loaded, but it's supposed to be a present to me. It's because I love ballads. So my dearest wife created a ballad. She hates ballads, but she knows I love them. And so she... love is a many splendid thing. It's amazing what the ideal wife will do when she knows that her husband has a tough job and that he loves ballads, and that she can contribute to that mission by creating a ballad. So she's done it, and it was ready to be played. I have not heard it yet. I have not seen it yet, and I'm told that she has not signed off on it yet. So we'll hold that for another show. But it's wonderful. Good to see you over there, Rich. Been a fun chat with all, and have a wonderful rest of your Shabbat.
Yes.
Shabbat
Shalom.
Yeah, Shabbat Shalom. Good night.
Bye.